Okay. Some of them are longer than others. Perfect. Thank you. So I've been asked to ask the public if the city attorney, Scott Goldie, is present. I am searching the list, Andrea, right now, and I do not see him yet. So if he comes in, I can flip him to a panelist. The only problem is, as an attendee, he will have no vote. No, I got it. There's somebody there? Put a note on the door. Call. This might be him. If you want to wait a few minutes.
Show here. Anybody else want to buy one? I got another one for sale. 18-foot, 2001 cigarette.
No? Okay.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Nobody want one?
Okay. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for remotely attending tonight's city council meeting. I would ask for your patience and cooperation as we continue using the technology available until we are able to hold in-person meetings. The camera in the council chambers is set up to show those members of the council attending in person. The platform we are using this evening has a raised hand feature. You will notice picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button and be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Mayor, I just got a message in. They're saying you're muffled. They can't hear you clearly.
You took my mind.
I'm just relaying the message.
I'll try to move this closer and then let me know if it still works. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just for the record, for the people watching, John Reich is here and Nicole Kennedy. We're just spacing ourselves out a little bit.
Would our city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly?
Here.
Councilor Dillabaugh?
Here.
Councilor Fisher?
Here.
Councilor Kennedy?
Here.
Councilor Powers?
Here.
Councilor Reich?
Here.
Councilor Scamperly?
Here.
Quorum present.
We do not have any presentations tonight. And that brings us to public hearing. Tonight we have public hearing regarding an ordinance to provide for the sale of city-owned property at public auction. This is going to be Bill number 40, and I will open that public hearing up now. If anyone would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please use the raise hand feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you will have 5 minutes to speak.
Mayor, I do have two hands raised at this time. The first person is registered as Ann Lesbrance, and I will unmute that person now to speak with respect to the public hearing. And it appears your mic is open.
Hello, and I apologize. I really don't want to speak. I guess I touched the button inadvertently. Thank you, Kathy. Good night.
That's fine. We'll go ahead and fix that for you. She has disappeared. Bear with me for one moment. I have to relocate her so that I can mute her line. There is one other person at this point. I apologize. Okay, bear with me. The next individual that has a hand raised is registered as Don Bouchard. It does not appear that Mr. Bouchard has any type of audio connection to the meeting whatsoever. What that indicates to me is that he is in a call-in only status. He did not use a device to sign in, which means he does not have a PIN, and I am unable to send him one. So I apologize.
Anyone else?
There are no other hands raised, sir.
I will declare this public hearing closed. And this brings us to personal appearance. At this time, if you would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 5 minutes. No? Let's give them a minute.
That's what I was thinking. I was going to suggest just another moment if we could. I do have, I'm sorry.
I got a message that some people, they're not hearing it clear, loud clear. I don't know if there's a sound thing you can turn on.
There's a sound thing that you can turn up, but what it does is it turns up the microphones in the room, and it won't amplify on their end.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they're hearing through the phone. This is the audio connection. So we have it positioned close to a speaker, but unfortunately the speakers only broadcast in the room. So they're hearing it from afar. So that's one of the disadvantages to all of us being in the room, because when you're logged in on your own device, you have your direct audio connection, which allows them to hear each one of you individually versus the whole.
The volume sounds good right now, so maybe if we all don't move, we'll be okay.
Talk loud, yeah. And I will caution you, if you've moved your speakers down, that's great. But if your papers touch those speakers, it will create a muffled sound on everyone else's end. It distorts the speakers. That's why we try to keep them up. But if you feel more comfortable moving them down so you're louder, feel free. I do not see any hands raised, Mayor. None.
And this, so we'll end that, public, personal appearance, and we'll go on to, this brings us to correspondence, and do we have any correspondence?
We have none.
Okay, next, we have our consent agenda, that the claims as enumerated in the general fund, warrant number 10/2020, in the amount of $1,218,505.51, and library warrant number 10/2020, in the amount of $22,847.69, and capital fund warrant number 10/2020, in the amount of $31,472.24, and community development fund warrant number 10/2020, in the amount of $0, and community renewal fund warrant number 10/2020, in the amount of $0, as audited, be and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Okay.
Kathy, or city clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly?
Here. Yes.
Counselor Dillabaugh?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reish?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, and we have no appointments tonight. And this brings us to items for council action. The first item for business will be read by Assistant City Manager Andrea Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an ordinance to provide for the sale of city-owned property at public auction. An ordinance to offer city-owned property for sale at public auction. Be it ordained and enacted by the City Council of the City of Ogdensburg, New York as follows. Section 1. The following property shall be offered for sale at public auction by the City of Ogdensburg. Tax map number 48.072-7-40. Location 520 Berry Street. Minimum purchase price $8,000, which includes estimated attorney fees and county filing fees. There are no restrictions. Section 2. The city does not guarantee clear title, and the transfer of property by auction and conveyance will be made by quitclaim deed. The City Council reserves the right to reject any and all bids or to withdraw any parcel from sale. Section 3. This ordinance shall become effective 10 days after publication.
I'll move that.
Second.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
I just had a question. The date and the time of the auction's not in here, does that matter?
I did provide it to you in an update. The tentative date, if this is approved for the auction, will be June 24th at 10 a.m. We do anticipate City Hall to be opened at that time, and it would be in the council chambers, and that will be included in the notice.
Doesn't need to be in there? Is that okay?
It's traditionally not in there, sir. It's put in the legal notice.
All right.
Any further discussion? Would the City Clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dillabaugh?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Assistant City Manager Andrea Smith.
Resolution authorizing the Assistant City Manager to enter into a property access agreement with National Grid for continuous groundwater monitoring at the former Ogdensburg manufactured gas plant site.
I think the summary statement says if somebody wants to go through it. Numbers.
That's fine.
Okay?
I just had a,
I'll move it, or somebody move it, you move it, I'll say it.
Discussion?
I just wondered if, we shouldn't have a start date and an end date on this so that, we can revisit it if need be. Or is there a reason for not doing this?
I do believe that this is an agreement that was submitted to the city from National Grid, and it was reviewed by the city attorney. I'm not opposed to adding dates.
If something comes up, over a certain amount of time?
This agreement, we have entered into these in the past. We have worked with National Grid to allow them onto the site in the past to conduct the monitoring. The monitoring is not new, but every time we do it is at their request, and we do one of these agreements.
So they request it, and we give them permission, and then the next time they request it. So that's kind of the dates are set by their request.
Yes, I don't know if Councilor Reese, if you're suggesting there should be an expiration that we're allowing them to go on the site until December 31st, 2020 or something like that.
If something happens in the next year or two, maybe we sell a parcel and this complicates it, or, you know, just to give a start and an end to it so that it can be revisited. So if it's okay with everybody, I just put in a start date, today, I guess, and an end date of, 2 years from. 2 years. 2 years from this decision.
And just redo it again.
Yeah, and then it revisit
This is the former, what we refer to as the former cheese plant, which is a combination of
Right.
several parcels. In total, I believe it's actually 9 parcels, but all 9 are not impacted by the proposed monitoring. The agreement does include an aerial photograph that was provided by National Grid that illustrates where the wells are located. 4 of them are within parcels, and 2 of them are within the street right of way.
It says continuous monitoring groundwater from wells and monitoring points. Are we looking at multiple testing during a post 2-year plan here? Or is this just something that's continuous? Is this an annual agreement with?
It's not necessarily annual, as I understand it, Kathy.
Doesn't say in here, but that would be.
They have to do this under a consent order with DEC.
Right.
It's like, it does not verify what that period is within the agreement. But traditionally, they can be every 3 years, every 5 years, those are typical. We have similar requirements to do testing of this nature on the Diamond National site in accordance with our cleanup documentation. So I'm making the inference that it's probably every 3 to 5 years that they would have to do this, but it's based on what their agreement is with National Grid, which I do not have.
How many times have they done it?
In the past, I can't speak to that. This was originally submitted to the former city manager back in March, and it just took a little bit to get through the legal review on our end and back on the agenda.
Andrea, if I may?
Yes.
In speaking with the representative that I talked with, National Grid, when we first received the document, it was my understanding that what would happen is the agreement would be entered into, they would come in and do the monitoring that they are required to do in accordance with their agreement with DEC. And then when they had finished, it was a process they would come in and do, and then they were finished, and they wouldn't need to come back until the next time, at which time they would propose a new agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what they've done with the other.
So this is a one-time thing.
I'll say, I haven't, since I've been on council, we haven't done that. I mean, Dan, have you ever?
So it should.
When they had the sale
If
from,
that's my understanding, it should say that in your agreement. Maybe it should be a shorter time period.
What I'm wondering is if we put an end date on it, if the DEC would have a problem with that.
No, we just revisit it in 2 years, give it to them again, if they still need it.
I think it was all contingent, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you were on council, when they had the sale, in the form of, back in 2010, when it went to two road, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, and that was part of the requirement, was to have it, you know, get it checked out by the DEC, that it was a treatment plant, the line yard operation. I don't know if there's something moving legally that we have going on here, with the cheese plant and the money owed to it, or if something, if this is an aspect of that.
This does not have anything to
This is
do,
just housekeeping, correct?
this has to do with the former manufactured gas plant that was located within this area. It was actually on the site adjacent, that is no longer owned by the city. It was once owned by the city.
We're giving them access to our property, so they don't want to give them. That's right. 20-year access,
It's a
you
good
know what I
way,
mean?
a good way of keeping an eye on it. And in fact, actually, do we get the results? That's the thing, of course, we want it monitored, that, needs to be. And then the next thing is, do we get the results? Since that property, some of that may end up being the city, some of it is, more may end up being the city. The results would be very important to get for us. And a date could just be beneficial for us to always remember what's going on here, so it comes up again. So.
Mayor, if I,
It looks like they do it every 3 years. If you look at the dates on the chart, maybe we should go with 3 years.
Mayor, if I may, if you look at paragraph D, it's the terms of access. And it states that the approved activities are granted from the date first written above until the completion of the approved activities as they may be expanded in accordance with section A above, or upon written notice by New York State DEC to cease the approved activities, whichever shall come first. So I don't know if that addresses Counselor's concerns significantly or not.
Yeah, you don't know when completion of the activities are. I mean, this might be a 20-year monitoring situation, and we're granting them access. So I just think there should be a time frame.
So what's the DEC order?
Yeah, it's National Grid asking us for access to test for monitoring wells, which are required to do by the DEC. So we say, yeah, you can do it for a couple of years, but then we'll want to talk to you.
Does everyone feel good about making a 3-year limit? And also asking to be kept up on the results of the testing?
I think we have to get results. Ultimately, we would have to get results. I'm responsible for it, but, I'm fine with it either way. 3 years, 5 years, now, I'm good with it anyway.
Is it getting any better? Any of the results?
We can look into that for you.
They didn't put these in 2012, right? 2014, 2012, I know they cleaned up that one section in blue quite a bit.
So I'd, make a motion to amend the term of access, section B, the date of first written above, for a period of 3 years. That's acceptable.
And we also put in a request for the results.
I don't know if you can do that or not. I think they're public results, though. I think you can ask for them. Yeah, they're all public information.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Would you please call the roll?
And just to clarify, this is a motion to amend. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reese?
Yeah.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Approved. So, Mayor, so now we'll need to vote as amended, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Any discussion on, would you please call the roll on that?
Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Clerk.
This is a resolution authorizing the Assistant City Manager to enter into an agreement with LogMe In for video conferencing services.
I'll make that motion.
Discussion?
Yes, Counselor Kennedy.
The agreement says that it's, $179 unit price per month, but the total is $1,074.
Yes, sir. It's, when you have it, you have two hosting capabilities. At the current time, both Andrea and I are using it. She uses it for the planning board and the zoning board, and I use it. So basically what you're doing is you're giving the ability of to two people to host, and they charge per host per month.
Okay.
All discussion done?
Yes, because this is a result of COVID-19, this is an eligible cost under the disaster declaration. So it is eligible for 75% reimbursement under our grant application to FEMA to cover costs associated with COVID-19 response. I believe in your update, I did give you what that actual dollar amount is, which $268.50 will be the cost to the city. That will enable us to continue to have virtual attendance, for mass gatherings, for council meetings as well as board meetings, including but not limited to the zoning board and planning board.
Anyone else? Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reach,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Attorney Scott Holding.
Scott, I think it'd be acceptable for you to read the summary paragraph and then give a little explanation rather than read all the way out.
Sure thing. All right, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I've met a couple of you, but not all of you, and been away, and obviously all of us have been away for a matter of months. But my name is Scott Goldie. I'm now your city attorney. So the resolution that's before you is resolution approving a one-year extension of the agreement between the city of Ogdensburg and St. Lawrence County in relation to the allocation and distribution of money collected from the sales and compensating use imposed taxes imposed pursuant to Article 28 and 29 of the tax law. So the resolution is attached to that. This is resolution language that mirrors the language that was within the resolution that the county legislature passed a week ago, and certainly that was also language that was approved by the state comptroller's office. And we just need you to approve this. You would otherwise authorize or to indicate to the county that you're willing to consider that. This is the actual language that you're agreeing to, and then the agreement is attached to the back of it. I'll move that.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
I just had a question in the resolution, for lack of a better term, the drop dead date for negotiations in the resolution looks like it's November 30th of 21. And in the actual, agreement, I guess, approved by the comptroller's office, he uses the old language that says September 1 of 2020, so. So I didn't know if our deadline to negotiate was September 1, 2020, or if it's, as per our resolution, November.
It is the September 1 of 2020 date, because that is ultimately what the city and the county are signing to.
So we get a 18-month extension, but our negotiation is still, September 1, 2020, so it's still rather timely.
Yeah. Good catch.
How did that work, Scott, for us?
And the whole purpose of the extension is to, give us
Gather
time
data.
to negotiate, because we haven't had a chance to with COVID, correct?
Well, it buys us a full extra year.
It should.
It does in terms of our present agreement, but it doesn't look like it extends our negotiation term.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Well, it gives you the opportunity to basically say that you want to step away from this agreement. And if you're willing to, if you want to step away from it, you're just giving them notice that you're going to step away. And then you can still have the negotiation.
So we can still negotiate after September 1st of 2020.
Certainly.
Unless they say past that date, right?
But that's this agreement.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the city and the county had entered into an agreement prior to the first of the year, and that would otherwise be binding, but for the county saying, we'll agree to extend this for a year. Give us time. Time for what? Time for, I would say, negotiate with the county for other options. Certainly,
That's John's point, is it only gives us until September 20th rather than September 20th of next year.
2021.
Right.
Like, that was my.
So that part should be changed to 2021. Is what you're saying, right?
I just wanna make sure everybody's aware of it, I want clarification myself.
Because you want time to negotiate, don't we?
And I know they're gathering data, we were looking at different methods as well, and we're not gonna gather anything before September 2020, there's no time.
the conversation I had with the county attorney on this particular action, agreement, was that as he understood, and as the state comptroller's office understood, the agreement between the city and the county was to extend the current agreement 1 year. So that's all they've done, they've just extended all the deadlines by 1 year. So when some other language was being proposed, at the time that you were contemplating the earlier resolution, that was basically the county saying, look, no, you can't do that. The agreement is for extending this 1 year.
Do you see any problem going forward that these are being changed? Do you think we'll be able to, again, resume next year, negotiations, or there's hinder if we choose to preempt?
Well, as the council has recognized, you have a very limited period of time. But the county has said, this is what we're agreeing to do, which is to give you a year, or extend the agreement a year. And that's the agreement before you.
So on page 1, okay, the fifth whereas,
Well, are you on the Department of Audit and Control?
I'm looking at the agreement. Right. In the matter of the agreement.
Well, yeah, all right, I just want to make sure.
So then if you go down to the number 5, whereas the parties are willing to extend the current agreement, amend agreement until November 30th, 2021, to provide the parties additional time to continue negotiations. So therefore, you're right, that date needs to be changed. In order for that to even make sense, because it's given us another year.
To negotiate.
Yeah, that's the purpose of this contract, to give us time to, and it says it right there in the fifth whereas.
Then what they did is they took section 3 of the agreement, and the only thing they changed were the dates to give it a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
The old dates stayed in.
The whole day.
In terms of negotiation period. Right?
Yeah,
So what they're offering is, everything's gonna stay the same, the distribution for that another year, but they're not moving the negotiations into the next year.
Even though that's what the purpose said.
That was
in the product.
But what the purpose.
Part of the reason some of these dates weren't changed was that they were concerned that, like, for example, the one reference to June of 2018, that was, in order to have made this effective, would have had to have changed it 2 years instead of 1 year. So, again, this has gone through the state comptroller's office, and they're saying that this is the language that they would approve.
so you're okay with it?
Well, there's nothing that prevents you from negotiating beyond that September date.
Yeah.
But what it's giving you is a deadline to and notify the county, hey, we don't want to be bound by this anymore.
Ultimately, we have 18 months to negotiate.
Correct.
Accessory agreement.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. 18 months.
You may not have, unfortunately, you may not have the information you want by
Correct.
September, but right now, the information you have suggests that you want to pursue some other options.
But we still only have until September 1st.
To notify them of the chance, of
That we wanna,
your understanding that you no longer want to be bound by this agreement, but that will then expire in 2021.
Basically, them coming to the table,
Correct.
right? I mean, ultimately, they're coming to the table, and they're offering us the 18-month extension to negotiate a potential successor agreement.
We had 6 months on it.
Well, the date suggests 18 months, right?
We have 6 months left on your contract.
That's what I'm saying. So you've got till November of 2021
Actually
to
decide.
potentially come up, either we don't go with an agreement or we pound out a successor agreement. Correct?
That is correct.
So we can notify them before September 1 of this year and say, we want to continue negotiating, but we reserve the right to preempt.
Absolutely.
Do you think that's possible?
Well, you have to, put it this way, after that date in September, you can't later notify them and say that, no, we no longer want to be bound by this agreement.
Right.
They're gonna say, no, you're stuck.
I just don't want to lose out on the possibility of preempting. That's what I don't want.
I understand.
So,
You got to keep an eye on that date.
so if we don't notify them, we're stuck with this agreement, which would leave all the distribution as it is.
No, that it has to come up with another agreement.
No, okay, we got a date.
It's only 1 year, so.
But if we don't reach an agreement, then this contract, the whole contract, the original one, is no. And then we're back to preempting other lines.
Or it can stay, fall into the county's hands, and they can distribute it however they want, right? Correct? That if we didn't make an agreement, then I was told that it could be possible that now the county is in control and can distribute how they want.
That was one of our big questions. Does the county, because of this contract, need Ogdensburg to change this agreement? Can they just say, Ogdensburg, we're done with it, and do whatever they want, take all our money? Or do they need us to agree to any change? And there seemed to be some discrepancy about what the state has to say about this. And this was one of the questions that was going on. And it was something that I know we brought up that we wanted to look into, is because we had two different answers. One was, they can't make a change without Ogdensburg. And the other one was, yes, they can.
Well, I think, without answering that question, I guess the city had otherwise entered into an agreement with the county as of the first of the year. I don't have any reason to believe that it is now null and void. It was, we'd have to look into it, but I'm almost wondering that basically that's on hold pending the negotiations and this 1 year. So that's the agreement that you may have by default.
The current agreement that we're in right now expires in November of this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. We're agreeing here after that, after November of this year, to extend negotiations to talk about either a successor agreement or, and whether or not they choose to go with the city of Ogdensburg, I mean, how's that going to affect the towns and villages? Well, I mean, the city's not involved, but the towns and villages, I mean, does the county ultimately lose out? I think it would probably be in their best interest to come to the table, and I think this is what they're attempting to do. As I read through all this the other day. Just,
I feel better if we,
Do we have to vote on this tonight?
wow, I mean,
Or can you go check this date and make sure that we have a year to negotiate? Do we know that?
well, it's a year to opt out, is what it is.
You have to notify them that you may opt out as of the September date.
Is it may or will?
We got 3.5 months.
So if we haven't worked anything out with them by September 1, then the city may notify the county of its intention to adopt legislation instituting a city sales tax.
Should be September 2021. I would,
And that's why that number 5 on the whereas, the whole purpose is to provide the parties additional time to continue. Right. So I just think that John was right in the beginning in that date on the next page, on page 2, needs to be changed to.
And we're referring to the agreement, not to the,
Yeah.
to the resolution,
Right.
okay?
So where it says term 3 of the agreement.
Yep.
Where it uses that September 1st, 2020, should be changed to September 1st, 2021. And that actually gives us the time to negotiate that number 5 on the whereas on page 1 is calling.
Well, why don't we, consider adopting it contingent upon that one date of the agreement being changed?
And then you can
Then
talk
you
to the
can go
county
back.
attorney, they can change, talk to the comptroller's office, make sure everybody's on board, or give us an explanation as to why a specific, that this is from the comptroller.
I don't think it makes sense for you to pass a resolution contingent on possible change to language in an agreement that hasn't otherwise, that isn't really before you as the proposed agreement by either the county or the state. I think what you do is you just say, we're gonna table the decision today on the resolution. We need a clarification of that date.
Okay.
And you have a meeting in 2 weeks, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So really, it's just changing it from September 1 of 2020, September 1 of 2021.
Correct.
And again, it's my understanding that that date is merely just a reflection of what the prior agreement had been, which would have basically put it at,
And you may be totally right, but just to make sure we don't get stuck in a catch-all. If September 2nd comes along and somebody says, we got you.
well, but you can, at that point, just to protect yourself, just notify them that, yeah, that this is our plan, all right? That we're going to go ahead and put in a city sales tax, and then negotiate from there.
But we don't know if we're gonna do that yet.
well, you were there, the negotiations were very difficult, and unless things change, you know, with leadership or something, a mind in the county, it's gonna be very difficult to come to an agreement.
It's definitely not our preference to preempt, but they need to justify why we get a lower percentage.
Right.
And the towns need to be
Aware.
on our side,
Right.
that it is an option for us, and they need to speak with their legislators during this negotiation process.
The arguments that were being thrown at, like Mike and I, when we were at the meeting, would have been the same exact argument for lowering the town and villages as well. So if you're gonna do it on for this, they suffer, then you're gonna suffer too, and that's where the towns and villages, I think, didn't really understand that.
They can actually take all the money from the town and villages.
Right.
When it's $1,000 out. And that would be really tragic for those town and villages, because many of them are in the same situation as our own city financially. And the county is, well, till the COVID-19 was very financially sound, with a good fund balance, and, but we really want to add to it. So I don't know if we're gonna come to an agreement preempting, I think our city taxes, sales tax are stronger than what the county thinks, and what some of us think. So I do think we have an option. The thing with preempting is if negotiations are gonna be this difficult, and again, with no data, hopefully we will collect data each year. I mean, it was far too emotional or want and fear, and it needs to get back to facts and figures. You know what the city does bring in the sales tax to the county, and with that data, hopefully we can make it. That would be good for everybody. But we need that one here.
Think in terms of partnership. So, not the towns that really just go down or the city goes down.
Right.
We need everybody to stay a sound mechanism for drawing and attracting sales. And that's the big key, is getting everybody to understand. There's no point in taking somebody else, especially somebody size five.
Well, one of the things, I think I asked you, Scott, was why would the city and the county ever join in the first place? And I think you told me it was, so that you weren't rivals, so that you, or maybe it was Jim.
It wasn't me.
It might have been Jim, and that, because you become competitive with each other. So the city's trying to bring in retailers, and the county's trying to get them on the outskirts, and you keep, working against each other to get the most sales tax. And if we did create them, and this is something we should think about, is we have a great opportunity to really promote retail. Sales tax is gonna be the revenue of the future of cities and counties. It's not gonna be property tax. And we're already there at our limit. Sales tax, so that if we can find retailers that consider coming to Ogdensburg and give them a good deal on their property tax, but every day just have people walking in and out of that store, and we're getting 2 cents out of every 4 cents. That's possible in the future, like we used to get 1.5 or 3. That's where our future will be for our community of bringing in revenue with the sales tax. And we could really start, if we do go on our own, we could really promote that. So, and
The other
anything else?
thing about this September meeting is that the legislature is not gonna be in session, I mean, except for emergency stuff they're dealing with right now, but, so, we can't even get authorization like that extra 1%. The senator or somebody has to bill authorizing us to collect the extra funds.
Legislature closes Wednesday.
Yeah, so we really need until next September to get our ducks in a row and get that passed so that we have the option to preempt.
I think that's what this is doing. I think this is just negotiation. So attempt to extend.
So we want to table this and get that date clarified?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna motion that we table this. Bill, second.
Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes?
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
tabled.
Our next item of business will be read by Assistant City Manager, Andrea Smith. Oh, and thank you, Scott. It wasn't painful saying not that long.
Not at all. Awkward.
A resolution authorizing the Assistant City Manager to execute a memorandum of understanding regarding transfer of property with the Ogdensburg Land Bank Corporation.
You can make that summary statements good there too. Everybody good?
Yeah, why don't you kind of explain
Sure.
without reading all the verbiage?
So this is following the recommendation of the FRB, the Financial Restructuring Board. And actually, maybe I can just read for you that recommendation, for the record. This is from page 33 of the 2018 final report from the Financial Restructuring Board. The board recommends that the city work with the Ogdensburg Land Bank Corporation to transfer the ownership of foreclosed properties to the land bank for management and resale, as well as consider establishing a protocol for the transfer of future foreclosed properties owned by the city. If the city agrees to abide by and implement this recommendation, the board may, in its sole discretion, award a grant of up to $325,000 to reimburse the city for uncollected revenues associated with properties that will be transferred. So essentially, what this is recommending is that the land bank and the city, or the city and the land bank, formalize and adopt a policy or protocol, what they refer to it as, which we have suggested would be in the form of a memorandum of understanding. The memorandum that you have been provided essentially outlines the process that was utilized back in 2018 to acquire the 13 properties that the land bank presently owns. So the city has a surplus list of property. That property is reviewed regularly with city staff to determine if those surplus properties, most of which are acquired through the foreclosure process, although not necessarily all of them, have any benefit to the city or value in some way, shape, or form. So sometimes the property is, sometimes there's known environmental issues, or it's adjacent to a park and we may need to keep it or want to keep it. Sometimes there are easements for infrastructure, or other things that may be relevant to the city, and in those cases, it may not be beneficial to the city to sell those properties to any entity, including the land bank. But not all properties are like that. The majority of surplus properties are not of benefit to the municipality, and in fact cost the city money in terms of county and school taxes, as well as property maintenance. So in the first round of transfers, what the land bank did is acquire all residential properties that were on the surplus list, and it agreed to do demolition and rehab of those properties. Of the 13 properties that the land bank owns, only 2 of them were suitable for rehab. The first one we're about to enter into a contract for, and that's a property on Lafayette Street. And the second one is a property on Franklin Street, which will begin renovation probably earlier this fall. All of the other properties were so far into disrepair that rehab really was not appropriate, and those needed to be demolished. So right now, the city does not own very few residential properties with structures on them, the exception being 502 King Street. We do own some commercial properties or industrial properties, but the land bank pretty much took care of all the properties that the city had that had single-family homes on them. So this memorandum of agreement essentially formalizes that very same process. But not all properties that the land bank may have interest in will be properties that have been on that surplus list for a decade or more. They may be properties that the city acquires at this year's tax sale or next year's tax sale. Because again, right now, the surplus list is primarily vacant properties. So if the land bank wants to or needs to do rehabilitation because of the funding it has, the city doesn't have properties presently available in which to do that type of activity. But you will in June at the end of the tax foreclosure process. So that's all outlined in the draft that's been presented to you, along with the resolution this evening.
Is the protocol, rather than say for a purchase price of $1, say for a negotiated agreement?
It can, but quite frankly, the land bank does not have the funding to buy property from the city. The land bank will always make proposals to acquire property based on funding available to do rehab, to do demolition, to do remediation, to do an activity. So, for example, the properties that we did demolition of, there was a lengthy presentation, a more detailed presentation in November given by the land bank, where we articulated all of the costs to date. And on average, it costs over $28,000 to do a demolition of a single-family residence here in the city of Ogdensburg. So it's $28,000 that the land bank invests in, on average, a residential demolition. If the city of Ogdensburg is going to require that the land bank pay for those properties, in addition to committing to spending $28,000 to do demolition or $80,000+ to do rehab, it doesn't work.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that you take a look at them individually, don't just carte blanche say, we'll give you $1 for everything that might come up on a tax sale. We want to do this, we like what the goes through the council, not automatically goes to land bank for $1. Hypothetically, you might end up with a property that doesn't have a tax. And, you know, we might want to review that. We might want to say, you know, we'd like you to pay the $3,000 in taxes to Borough, and it's yours. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't like the dollar language, but it's up to you guys.
Well, that's,
I just want to add one thing, because the $325,000 figure that's referenced in the FRB is what is, that is the value of the due taxes on the city's current surplus list. So as the city transfers the property for $1 to the land bank, the city will receive the back taxes from the financial restructuring.
Well, that's an example, it could have a value beyond that. So that's fine, as long as our memorandum has in 1 year, it's only 1 year's worth of taxes, right? So, the other thing is to take a look at, you know, and this doesn't have an open and close date on it. So, you know, it'd be a good idea to put a start date on it and keep that memorandum for a year and see how things go, and if we can revisit it rather than. I work with leases and stuff every day, and I've never seen agreements that don't have dates on them. Sorry, that's the way it goes. So it should have a start date and end date, in my opinion.
You're a stickler on that, you know, and you
I am.
bring up good points. I mean, you know, you bring up good points.
So if you want to go with $1, or you want to stay with that concept, I'm fine if we just do it for a year and then we revisit it. I think it's entirely possible that, you know, something doesn't get bought at auction that has value to it.
And do you think that would have any effect on the land bank if we put that date in there, a 1-year date? Affect
So the way that the current memorandum reads is that this agreement shall remain in effect until terminated by either party with 30 days notice. So it doesn't expire on a calendar date, after a year, 2 years, or any other date. I do think that, and this is a conversation that we've had at length internally in the past and that other land banks have, and the attorney is here specifically to speak to this resolution and the memo that he provided to you all, and so I'd be happy to let him speak on that. But to the purchase price, there are properties, in fact, the 2 properties that the land bank is doing rehab of, I would say, are the only 2 properties that had any value to them. But again, the amount of money that so if the land bank were coming to you today and saying, we want to buy this property on Franklin Street, that you just foreclosed on, it's in fairly good condition, it certainly has value. It would not be something that no one would be interested in. The question is it of greater benefit to the city of Ogdensburg to transfer that property for $1 to the land bank under the agreement that they're going to invest a minimum of, right now we have to invest a minimum of about $80,000 in rehab to bring it up to a code, a standard that enables it to be resold in accordance with our grant agreement. So is it more beneficial to the city of Ogdensburg and to that neighborhood to sell that property for $1, knowing that the land bank is going to put $80,000 into it and sell the property at a loss, still, although it's primarily grant funding that's going into it, or to keep that property and to sell it for $10,000, where someone may simply move into it and put paint on the walls and rent it, where it doesn't become an asset in the neighborhood, where there are no guarantees. And I guess that's what I had spoken directly to the attorney about, and he has articulated quite nicely in a memo to you all that differentiates the difference. But when the land bank comes to you and requests a property, they're going to come to you and tell you, we want this property to do a rehab. We want this property and we will do a demolition. They're going to come to you with a plan And that is the difference between the land bank, one of the differences between a land bank and the general public, where you know what's gonna happen with that property, whereas versus selling it at general auction, where someone's gonna pay a higher value, but it's a greater risk to the city and to the neighborhood. So,
Basically a governmental entity.
There's a guy who took a completely inferior building that was off the tax rolls and did an outstanding job on it. No offense to the land bank, but,
so it's a,
So that's the role of the dice too, John, when you've got the land bank that's coming in and saying, this is what we're going to do. It's kind of like a governmental entity to legally flip a house, and here's your policy by the city.
no, I completely agree with the entire concept of the land bank. I think Andrea's doing a wonderful job with it. Those were just my concerns that I raised. Whatever everybody wants to do is fine by me. And I didn't know about the 30-day clause either.
That first of all, the land bank is set up in essence to be a not-for-profit corporation with the sole purpose to benefit the city of Ogdensburg. And the legislature sets it, provided these laws for creating land banks because it was seeing that problem that Ogdensburg is having all over the state. And that just the way things are working now, selling at auction, it just isn't improving property values, it's causing decay in communities, in little pockets of the neighborhood. So this is where basically something is set up to help the city out. It's solely for the benefit of the city. And it's not gonna make a profit, guaranteed. But it's been shifting those expenses that the city has, giving the city some assurances that the properties that are being transferred will perhaps should improve in value. And that in turn will improve the surrounding neighborhood. So that's the whole purpose of it.
I've seen some properties that have been demolished that had potential, in my opinion, of being recap. So it's not perfect, any governmental entity like that. That's why I think a lot of these, I hate to see the decision-making authorities kind of take it away. And God knows we don't do a good job at public auction. I don't know if those two houses you're rehabbing ever went to a public auction or if they just went to a tax sale.
they only went to tax sale. That's a perfect example of the benefit of the land bank. Those two properties out of the 13 were the only two that were salvageable, because they didn't wait around 2 more years and go through another auction process. The land bank acquired ownership of them quickly enough where we were able to get in there and secure the property. We removed tons of trash from each property immediately. In fact, even before taking title in the case of the Franklin Street property, to save the city funding and to preserve the assets, which is critical because the properties that you don't do that with are the properties that require demolition.
And we haven't done that with 212 Fourth Street. We're tearing it down, even though there's, you can argue whether it's a historic building or not.
I'm not gonna argue with you, Counselor. I have a letter from the state of New York stating that it is not architecturally or
No,
historically
it's a
significant.
3-story building in our downtown.
Sure.
It looks historic.
Did anybody move this here?
No, sir.
No.
No.
I'd like to move this.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
I would like to, I'm a private sector person, and before I did the Parcel, I had restored 5 homes around us. The best I ever did was break even, and lost a bit on one house. And it's a beautiful house down in Riverside Ave.
So you're not a good citizen.
I apparently not, and that, but our private sector is not really strong right now. So I feel like the land bank is a great asset in the sense, when they sell that home restored, the improvement to that neighborhood, in the community, and then the revenue will offset that cost down the road. And that's the problem. I get calls from a lot of, people outside the community, wanting to buy these homes and asking my business to come in and take a look at them and do this work. And they want to do everything so poorly that, the house just continues to decay while they get.
Not everybody.
No, not everybody, not everybody. But I'm just saying, I see that quite a bit. They see a real bargain, in our property values, and, they're not coming in to do that, the right thing, as a community. So, I understand what you're saying, but I think the revenue will be more than offset by future property tax.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I mean, we get grant money, we've gotten $1 million in grants for re-advertising. I didn't know about the 30 days. I think they're all good points that I raised, but I'm fine with going ahead if they want to do.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Is there any chance to go back to the New York State financial restructuring where we get more money?
I believe that Tim Johnson is on the phone, and he could probably speak more directly to that, but while you queue Tim up, I will say that I believe when, and I wanted to give Tim a chance to speak because I know that Tim has actually spoken directly with the Financial Restructuring Board, whereas I, as the Director of Planning, have not done so. But what I can say is that when the Financial Restructuring Board back in 2018 presented the findings in their report at their public meeting, I did watch that, and they did, and I am paraphrasing from memory, so please forgive me, but something to the effect of, they have provided certain recommendations with costs associated with them, such as this one, and they have also reserved the right to provide additional funding in subsequent years should we complete these first initial recommendations. So they didn't commit to it, but they did leave the door open. And the other thing I'll say before we give it to Tim is the Financial Restructuring Board in this year's budget, we have accounted for the funding that you would receive once the city and if the city council does enter into a formal agreement that codifies a process to transfer property. Once that's in place, that will meet the requirements of the Financial Restructuring Board, and you can automatically request disbursement of the due taxes on the 13 properties that you already transferred. And you can do that with the next round of properties that the land bank would come to you and request. So you can do that on a rolling basis until you reach this dollar amount of 325, and if you continue to have that relationship, it's my understanding that you may be able to go back and request additional funding. So maybe Tim has more to add.
Tim, can you hear us? He is on the line. I verified his audio prior.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Was there a specific question or?
Counselor Fisher was asking if it was your understanding if the city could go back to the Financial Restructuring Board and request additional funding, and I was saying that it was my understanding that they had left that door open, but that you might be able to speak more directly to that.
Yeah, they did mention that with several of the proposals. They don't commit anything in writing, but other than what they put in the report, they did mention that typically they allocate more funds than that in case things arise. If we say, well, this is working and it'd be great if we could continue it to make it more of a success, then they would entertain a proposal to secure more funds. So, like I say, it's not in writing, but they verbally did state that that we could do that.
And was that 325,000 for unpaid taxes for 2018 or only?
It's just it's a rolling number. I believe it's good for maybe like 3 years. So I know our first round was, we did put some money in the budget for the first round of properties that were transferred, that bulk amount of properties. So I'm not sure, I don't have the document right in front of me, because the restructuring board issues a report, then what they do is the things that we're approving, they go to a different department in the state, and then we deal with another person for the actual grant part of it. And that's what the only thing they're requiring for this is that we have this formal resolution just to say we have an agreement in place that was formally agreed upon. They just want that for their grant records, and then we can draw funds.
And Tim, I believe, and this is not to the penny, but in speaking previously with Tim, I believe the number in this year's budget for the 13 properties previously acquired is somewhere between $118,000 and $120,000.
Yep, that's correct. So then that averages out to a little over $9,000 per property that we would get reimbursed for.
Yeah, I think it's just an ongoing program that our state is moving. If they want to continue it, we do all that. I hope they'll say very good.
One more quick question, as far as the MOU, and I know that the land banks exist throughout the city of New York, they all seem similar.
Ours is
Every municipality is different, I understand that.
right.
Funding and whatnot.
Ours is the newest land bank in New York State, first of all. We're also the smallest geographically. We are the only one composed of, we're not the only one anymore, but we have, most of them are countywide. So they acquire property in various ways. This is the way that land banks want to acquire property. This is the way in which it works most advantageously for the land bank and the community, because it keeps your acquisition costs low. So they essentially don't pay for the property, they cover all the legal fees, the filing fees, but your acquisition costs are low, and therefore, more money goes into the property for rehab, for demo, et cetera. So this is what everybody strives to get to. They don't in all cases. In a lot of instances, land banks bid on the properties at the tax sale or something of that nature, and that's a whole nother question. They have a trump bid, that's what's called a trump bid. They can outbid any other bidder. We don't really want to do that. We'd like to develop a relationship with the city who established the land bank. That obviously is the best mechanism.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reish?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Approved.
And this brings us to old business. Does anyone have some old business they'd like to discuss?
Just for Andrea, where are we at with I know you said you were looking was eligible for the chief of police, and we were going to see if we were able to get that list updated.
Yeah.
I was wondering where we're at with that.
We did receive the list from civil service. The local list does have 3 eligible members on it from our local department. And I anticipate working with the department to prepare a memo for you all on the required process that the city should go through to be in compliance with civil service laws as well as our charter and New York State statute, and anticipate having an action item for you on that at your June 22nd meeting.
Thank you.
Does the list have other people besides?
Kathy, you could speak to the civil service process maybe definitely better than I could. I know the first step is that we get the list for the city, which we have received. There are 3 individuals on that list. it does make that an eligible list.
You are correct.
From there, I'm a little uncertain.
In this particular list, I believe, was a list that existed prior to everything being transferred from the city to the county. Those lists were pre-existing and are still accessible. Going forward, when a civil service exam is given, the city and other communities as well have the option of requesting a list of only residents or a list of all eligible candidates. And that is a decision that the appointing authority makes at that time as to which list they want. So in this case, this is a list that existed prior to the transition.
I'd like to see all candidates, a complete list.
Yeah, this is done in consultation with the council, so I'd like to be involved in the process in terms of understanding how it works. And I think there's two lists actually, and possibly be involved in the interviews as well. So I'm assuming you're not bringing a candidate on.
I think that's the city
No.
manager's job according to the charter.
Under the current hiring freeze, the first step would be to to exempt the position of police chief from the hiring freeze. And if you want to bring that resolution up from the floor, I believe you can do so tonight. It would require 5 votes, but that is the resolution that would be presented first, that would initiate starting the formal process.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'd like to understand the list, the civil service law. It is, there is a hiring freeze, done in consultation according to the charter with the council. For me, that means that our assistant city manager consults with us about the process and how they're going to be interviewed, and we have a role to play here in picking the person. Ultimately, you're comfortable both here anyway. Yes, but I don't like, a vote being given to us and understand, I want to be involved in the process.
I understand that the charter does include language that all hiring of staff as well as removal does require consultation from city council. That typically comes to the city council in the form of a recommendation from the city manager, in my understanding of how things have happened again in the past under multiple city managers, for the appointment of a department head, which would be what the chief of police would fall under. That would come to the full council as a recommendation, and you all would have the requirement to approve or deny the recommendation. So
Yeah.
typically that's how that's handled.
I just want to be to speak a little louder. I know, there's one, I'm blinking over here, so I just.
Well, I think it would help if we had, the whole list, and then we did get to meet with, any really important position.
Yeah, to me, consultation means, you have a dialogue, and maybe this is where things go wrong sometimes. We're the elected body, and to have a dialogue for such an important position between the administration and the elected officials on the process and the people, and whether it's done in executive session or otherwise, so that you're not just presented with something that you may not agree with, because you were never consulted. That's what consultation means, from my perspective.
I think it would be beneficial for us to, first of all, meet every candidate, and talk with them, and feel for their experience and their thoughts, and
How many candidates are actually interested in said job?
So again, for the record, we have not presented a resolution to exempt the position of police chief from the hiring freeze. And so the process of conducting any interviews or reaching out to any of the candidates has not occurred.
Well, then, I would like to make a motion to exempt the police chief from the hiring freeze so we can move forward for the position.
Second.
And that way we can at least go forward and we can find out who is available, what our options are. We can conduct interviews, as you said, with more council interaction, whether it's an executive. Pardon?
Would you say that we want to exempt somebody?
I said I'd like to exempt the police chief from the hiring freeze so that way we can move forward.
Yes, no, that's right, the position of police.
The position,
For this, okay.
yeah.
Where I would have,
Was it Councilor Powers that seconded? Who did that?
Counselor, oh, I'm sorry.
Or Skinner.
Yes, yes.
And then we can, like Andrea says, that's the first part that we have to do, and then we can move forward with an action of some sort, but at least move forward.
Why?
He just wanted to be, he just,
But I'm saying, why does that have to come first? I would say we come last.
I think we get a full list and maybe the resumes, go out that, and then proceed.
The list is only valid for, I believe,
30 days.
30 days. They did send us the first list, which we have to sign and send back, which I did.
Andrew, I'm sorry, you can get an extension,
Okay.
just so you're aware.
And we reviewed it, which was essentially me acknowledging that I received it. I saw that there were people on it. We have a hiring freeze, so that informed me of the process that we have to take. One, that there is an eligible list, and two, that means we have to go through the process, which is first to exempt it from the hiring freeze, to initiate the process of doing interviews, establishing a committee, conducting interviews, and ultimately presenting the council with a recommendation for how to proceed. So that is how we would typically do it under the hiring freeze scenario.
Is there a problem with getting a complete list, local people and people from outside, and all the resumes, and review them first?
I'm sorry. First, I don't know that there is a current list outside of the city of Ogdensburg. Our list existed prior to the transition to the county. I do not know the status of a countywide list. They may not have an active list. They may be waiting to give an exam. They may be advertising. They may have a list. At this point, we would have to make the request.
So how old is that list? You said it existed before that function was transferred to the county?
I can't speak to the date of it. I looked at it quick.
I looked at it quickly to see who was on it, and that was a valid list, which essentially means that there's at least three on it. So
And they're typically valid for 4 years.
And the 30-day requirement, even though it might be a 2-year-old list, which is the date you asked for?
That is correct.
that's civil service.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the 30-day period is a civil service timeframe. That's not something from us or from our charter or.
Right, but is it from when a list is taken or when it's received?
The list is valid for us to act upon for 30 days, correct?
That's correct. And Counselor, if I may, the purpose of that is that if you have multiple municipalities, when we were having our own civil service here, we would know what positions we had available. When you're pulling from the county, there may be another municipality in St. Lawrence County that is looking for, instance, the position that you're looking for. So if they just give the list and there's no time limit on it, and another community requests the same list, you could end up going through the entire process and interviewing and wanting a particular candidate, only to find out at the end of the day that the other community had picked that candidate as well. So that's how it was explained to me, was the purpose of the list being limited.
Well, what Councilor said as far as the process and stuff and being involved in it, I mean, I had no idea this 30-day thing. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like a blindside, because now it's like, we've only got 30 days here. And it's like, didn't somebody think that maybe someone should have said that?
We are not operating under a 30-day time period at this point in time. I'm telling you that I did receive the list. I know that the list may have changed, for example, but I doubt it has between now and a week and a half ago. But, it doesn't matter when you get that list, it will only be valid under civil service law for 30 days. So that's how that is.
It may not be a valid list if it's a 2-year-old.
So you usually get that list, when you're ready to start a process. Correct.
When we had,
Which we would not do until we would have this resolution, a resolution to exempt the position from the hiring freeze approved by council.
when we had civil service, we didn't have 30 days.
I can't speak to that, to be honest with you,
I
Counselor.
remember having this.
And
And it was never, I mean, unless if there was 3 people on the list, the state acted until the call for another test, or it went below 3.
and I understand what you're
You don't
saying.
have to take the list less than 3.
And I understand what you're saying. And that was the reason why I called County Civil Service, because I needed clarification, because I understood exactly what you're saying. The way it was explained to me is that this is a certification of eligibles. And to speak to Counselor Risha's question, the list that you receive when you make the formal request is, as of that day, they're telling you that is your valid list. And that's why they limit it to 30 days, because the list could change. Someone someplace else could hire. But as of that day, I understand what you're saying. It could be 2 years old. It is still a valid list. Most lists are valid for 4 years. And as people fall off the list because they take positions or they ask to be removed and choose not to remain on the list does change. But when you make the request to the county civil service for a certification of eligibles, and that's the proper term of the document, they're telling you as of that day, here's your valid list, those that you can access, those that you can touch.
So I did that in an effort to determine whether or not there was a valid list, because whether or not there was a valid list would change the process, or could change the process that we had to take. If there wasn't a valid list, then we would have to call for the test, and that would be a different process. So there is a valid list. So I do know that definitively, which I didn't know at your May 26th meeting. I can confirm for you today, there is a valid list of 3 individuals.
Well, like you just said that, if the list changes because other people can be picked off as well. Well, they can't pick off our list if it's our list.
You're absolutely correct. This particular list that we're speaking of is to the city of Ogdensburg only. And as the mayor has indicated, I do not know if one exists for a countywide police chief list. We will have to make that request. But you're absolutely right. The list that we are referring to tonight is only for the city.
Right. It wouldn't make any difference to anyone else. They can't touch that.
You are absolutely correct. That's my understanding, that you are absolutely correct.
I think we should, establish our procedure and, with a full list of everyone eligible, in our city, out of our city, and a procedure that, we can participate in the interviews. And then if it is set and they're agreeing to the council, majority is comfortable with it, and we would list a hiring freeze at that point. Important position, I don't really like. Can you do it that way?
Well, so, I had intended to prepare you all a memo that you would get next week in preparation for the meeting on the 22nd. That would include details on the process, on the civil service list, on New York State statute requirements for a police chief, on our city charter, et cetera, along with the resolution to exempt the position from the hiring freeze. Because it is my understanding that we are required to appoint a police chief for several reasons, but those all were going to be articulated to you in a memo so that it would answer some of the questions that we're going through this evening. I don't know if you all realize that I've been doing this acting city manager thing for few weeks here, so, I really don't profess to be an expert in civil service law, or the charter. I carry a copy of it with me everywhere I go. It's right there. And so I wanted the opportunity to have, some confidence in the recommendation I was presenting to you, which is why I didn't give it to you this evening, because I did not have time to do that for you. However, I do believe that we need a police chief, and I'm happy to expedite this process if that is the pleasure of council with the motion and second that have been made this evening.
Kathy,
Yes, sir.
what is the expiration date of that?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you that.
We've, the list that I'm referring to, the local list,
Yeah, not the 30-day certification.
I can't speak to that.
To be honest with you, when we received the list, when I received it, I immediately sent it up to Andrea. I don't recall looking at the date. I
No,
mean,
but I'm saying this is an old list that we had here prior to going to the county. And we had, I'm sure we must have our own filing cabinet with stuff in it from when this test was given, because we gave it here.
no, sir, I'm sorry, we don't. Every single thing was transferred to the county. The county physically came here and took all of our civil service records.
We've got nothing on a computer.
Not to my knowledge, sir. I was in that process. I helped with that with the previous city clerk, and we literally boxed up everything. And county representatives came here, and some of our representatives took things to the county.
And they've sent you the list, and it didn't give you an expiration.
I'm not saying that it did not. I'm just saying that I don't recall it to tell to you this evening.
We can certainly get that information.
Yeah, we can request a new
I think it's kind of
list.
important. I mean, we got the 30-day certification that got thrown in, but, you know, we've got a valid list, but we don't know when it's, you know, actually how long we actually have, or.
You're absolutely correct. The list could expire.
Everything.
It could expire in August of this year. It could expire November of next year. Without looking at it, we can't speak to that, but we can certainly.
It could expire next week.
Clearly, we're not ready to do it, and more needs to be done to research this, so,
I think if we have a list, we should move on it.
well, we don't even know if it's an expired list or not.
Well, that list would be a valid list for 30 days from a week ago. So that is it is a valid list. I just returned it, knowing that I didn't anticipate action in the next 30 days, which is what you have to do. I had to sign it and turn it back saying no action taken at this time. So there is a valid list. There is absolutely a valid list today, right now. I don't have it in front of me, so I cannot tell you the date that it expires, but today, there is absolutely, a current list with 3 individuals.
We have a motion in front of us. By Nicole, let's vote on it. Or, we have first and second.
I don't think you can introduce a resolution at your meeting, and then adopt the same, right?
You can, it takes 5 votes.
I will.
If you pull a resolution from the floor, which is basically what you did, under old business or new business, that's the business part of it, we can actually vote on a resolution, but it has to be 5 votes.
We have a motion.
We can probably suspend the rules from what I understand, but however, wherever you want to do that.
Any further discussion? The city clerk, please call the roll on this.
So just to clarify, this is a motion to exempt the police chief position from the hiring freeze.
And move forward with,
And move forward with, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Counselor Fisher?
No.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Reish?
No.
Counselor Scamperly?
yes,
Mayor Skelly?
No.
Counselor Dilaba?
No.
Defeated.
Is there any other old business?
I got something like that, I'm the chief, like, and maybe you mentioned it. There's $150,000 in escrow deposit,
around there.
right up, might be a hundred. Does the guy owe a lot more money to the city than that,
I
or?
believe so.
Because I got a call that he's old and he's in some serious trouble, health-wise,
and he wants to rectify it. And he made an offer to split it, but I don't know, I don't know what.
That would be up to our attorney.
Well, apparently he said, what he told me was that the money's sitting in a past attorney's office, and the people he's talking to is the lawyer in Syracuse. So whoever, I don't know who that lawyer in Syracuse, but he wants to say, don't even take it, but they say, no.
It's my understanding that the litigation on that issue is being handled by from Syracuse.
Yes. But every time they phone up, they say, no. I don't know, it's just, I don't know if you want to settle it, or.
Do you want me to reach out to the city's attorney that's handling this matter and ask for status and?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I mean,
Indicate
you
that
guys.
issue's come up before, I can.
Well, I mean,
I, for one, would, like an update, on either from them coming to our meeting and given that we paid them an awful lot of money, and, nobody seems to understand what's going on with the 10-year-old legal process. So there ought to be some communication with the council, whether that's through you, Scott, or they come here and.
well, if the owner's not one, let's just take the $150.
Well, I think there's litigation.
No.
Okay, they can't.
And that 150 is ours right now.
To piggyback, I'm sorry.
But it's sitting in escrow.
Certainly as an attorney, if this person is representing that he has told his attorney to pass on a settlement offer, your attorney, if received it, has an obligation to pass that on to you.
Well, he's asked me
Whether
to,
it's recommended or not.
he's asked me to actually see if he'll do something, because.
So basically, he's trying to do an end run around
Right.
both attorneys saying, hey, can we work out a deal?
Right.
And you've been paying a lot of money to a counsel that has an opinion on what's in your best interest. We can, if you have some details of that, I'll pass that on to them, but, I'd be very skeptical of that offer that's being made, because he wants to, split the money that's in that.
Well, that's what he's
For
suggesting right now.
What is he getting at? He just wants that, and then
Yeah.
all of his obligations and debts are.
Right.
There's a lot to that.
That's what I'm asking, I don't know, I just got a phone call.
I mean, I believe there's a couple of different people too. So that owners, back more than 10 years. Quite frankly, and just to piggyback Councilor Reese's comment, you get a good solid update as to where we are, with that. Litigation, and more importantly, anything that's out there, if there's anything possible pending.
It'd probably be a good thing for an executive session.
People on the council, we don't know anything about. I know anything about it, I got a phone call. Yeah, I got the same phone call.
So, we'll definitely hold this.
That's very old.
I mentioned, I guess, with the last meeting about potential Boys and Girls Club for a recreation program in Lambayeque. And with the head of DPW hasn't looked into it yet. I don't know if he's on the phone, if he could, because I guess I'm concerned that as these stages go back to normal here, that we want to be prepared if we are going to offer some recreation programs before the end of the year or the fall.
I'm also wondering, is there any chance I'm getting calls about the city pool? I mean, do we have any option of opening that? We have kids that are disadvantaged, and I have parents, I have local groups calling.
It's not closed because of us, we're waiting for the governor to open.
Right, I can respond to
But
that.
I'm just saying, like, is there, if we do get it eligible to be open, are we prepared to do so? I guess is my question, because I want to be able to give an answer when I'm out shot. People are like, is there any chance if we open this up that even at a reduced capacity, do we have lifeguards ready? Do we have a plan in place? So I knew you had an opening plan or whatever for the city that you had mentioned, reopening plan, but I know the pool was on it.
So recreation is in phase 4, and we did receive the request to start developing a plan or set of recommendations for how we might provide recreational services, going forward that was addressed at the last council meeting. I have talked briefly with the Director of Public Works, and Shane, I will certainly give you an opportunity to add to this. At this point, since the May 26th meeting, we have not developed a plan. We have, I say we, it wasn't myself, but Shane did reach out to several municipalities specifically about the pool to better understand what we would need to do to ensure that that we would be able to open the pool in the future, whether it's this season or a later season. Should we not open it this year, what we needed to do to ensure that it was functional going forward. We are getting some feedback from other communities about how to do that, so stay tuned on that. The pool budget in totality was part of the May 6th resolution in terms of being removed as a cost savings measure. All $62,000 and change was moved to be removed from that budget. So opening the pool, if we receive the order today that we could open, will be extremely difficult because there is zero money in that budget at this point in time. The other complicating factor is that because of COVID-19, lifeguards have not received their training. So that is an issue that all communities are struggling with. I don't have an answer for you on that just yet. I'm not telling you that there's absolutely no way we could open it. I am not telling you that. But there are a lot of factors into whether the pool could open, how it could open, and what that would look like. Not only because it presently isn't allowed to be open right now, but because of the impact that COVID-19 has had on training lifeguards, and because of the budgetary restraints that we are now working under with a zero budget line for the pool.
I'd like to, talk about the budget. The reason that was cut out, and the other thing was, with COVID-19, if it doesn't look like it's gonna happen, and you take it out of the budget, you're working to save a job. We don't want, we're not gonna spend that money, because of COVID-19. We don't want to say it's in the budget and we gotta make these cuts, and that's another person. We don't want the person to lose their job if the money's not gonna be used there. So that was never the intention of council to take away rec. It was like, if it can't happen, then let's use that money to keep someone employed.
And under the current circumstances, the pool cannot open.
Right,
It cannot open by the city, it cannot open by another not-for-profit, it cannot open at all. So just to piggyback on your comment.
So we talked earlier, you explained it to me, and the pool has to be open, gone through all the process, running the pumps and filters, running everything, and then winterized again.
That's our current understanding.
Yeah.
We're working through those details to understand exactly what that looks like, but that does appear to be what other municipalities will be doing. Opening the pool in a manner just to get everything going through its normal cycle, and then ultimately closing it down. We believe that is the process that we'll have to undertake at a minimum, but obviously that doesn't have a high cost associated with it because we're not having chemicals, we're not having lifeguards, et cetera, et cetera. So.
I think we're just gonna have to wait and see what the state allows us, and if it starts looking promising, try to prepare for it, even if it's a short season. If it gets to be so short, then we gotta weigh in, it's August, and.
No, I understand, we normally close early anyways, because most lifeguards are college kids returning to college, but I know even a lot of colleges now are having a delayed entrance, some of them aren't going back to October, and I just wanted to be able to give some type of answer to the people who are asking.
And is there a date for phase 4, or are those flexible dates?
Everything, as I understand it, is pretty flexible. It's on 2-week intervals, but, we saw outdoor dining open earlier than anticipated. Just this afternoon at 4:15, there was an update on recreation that I haven't been able to read through the whole thing. If everything continues and our numbers don't go up per region, we could be looking at maybe July for phase 4, but that's an assumption. So that really weighs heavily on how things go as we get into each subsequent phase.
So I think we ought to be aggressive with planning for the opening in July if we're permitted, and then if it wasn't our intent to, not open it right away because of COVID, but, we want to offer recreation.
We need to offer something to the children. We can't, I see it with my own kids.
But it shouldn't be a reason not to plan and move forward,
And I would say that we certainly are having conversations about it. Every department right now is working with a bit less staff and trying to keep up with things. DPW is doing a great job of understanding what they need to do to assume the duties of recreation without any of the recreational programming at this point in time. It is my intent to reach out to the not-for-profits, including the Boys and Girls Club, to see what they're working on and how we may be able to work together to provide recreational amenities. And we will be working on that to get you a recommendation. I don't have that for you today.
They're all on the same guidelines. We have Boys and Girls Club.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Piggyback, what you were saying earlier, as far as phase 2, they allow outside dining. This Friday, they might very well open up inside dining. And that's part of phase 3.
Right, absolutely.
So, phase 3 might come right around the corner, and the governor seems to be operating under this. He's basically holding one of his briefings and getting briefed by his staff, and then he turns around and implementing phases, parts of phases.
Yeah, right, that's what
And it appears to be coming kind of quickly. So,
which is great news.
But the Boys and Girls Club is separate entities, run by a different set of directors, and they may not, just because the governor opens it up, may not mean that the directors of the Boys and Girls Club and the Alliance of the State of New York will allow it.
Correct.
One thing, I just wonder if we can update on the wastewater treatment plant.
I did provide in the end of May, a comprehensive update on the wastewater treatment plant. And if you want more detail on that, I would ask Shane who's dealing with it on a daily basis, to give you a more up-to-date update on the wastewater treatment plant.
Shane, you do appear to be self-muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Everything seems to be going as planned. We're a little bit behind on the Elizabeth Street pump station. And I did speak with the engineer that gave the partial update, and he said he could do a full report to you guys if you would like at a later council date.
We can work with EDR and see if we can get that lined up for your June 22nd meeting or your first meeting in July. I don't know if you have a preference.
Either one. It's such a large project, there's so many things going on that.
I'd be interested in a committee as a whole with bank and EDR, separate from the council meeting, just to understand what's going on with Google and the outside user fee and the project as it exists now.
I know, previous council members, hearing was they were part of the committee that they were very involved in the process and understanding of what to do with wastewater treatment plant. I don't know if anybody stepped into their shoes in order to maybe pick up what they were doing, but maybe that's something we could approach too, if somebody's interested.
If anybody wants to be followed,
Just step in and go for it.
either have a presentation done here, member bank, or typically that's how things are done.
We can work with EDR and Dang to line something up for the 22nd or the first meeting in July, whichever one works better for their schedule, and I can update you on what that meeting date would be. I would say, Councilor Kennedy, we did have 2 members of council participate as representatives in those meetings, but I would say that we were meeting very regularly, and a lot of that was as the project was being designed. So now we've moved to, construction and implementation. The meetings, there are still regular meetings, but those meetings look and sound a lot different. They're, having conversations conversation with the contractor, what are the challenges this week? And those are, which are all echoed in your update that we provide to the council as well as the public.
I love a construction site, you know, and I would love to be included in some of those meetings.
Yeah, so let me work with Charles Pryor from EDR and Dank, and we'll see what works best for an update, and we can also talk about, possibly getting some involvement from council.
I was just, because the sewage plant is right next to Newell's, and we haven't talked in a while, how are things there? The insurance coming through, or?
I just requested an update on Friday afternoon from the insurance company, so I don't have that just yet. But there is some work going on at the building right now that's finishing up contractual items that were weather dependent. There's some painting, there's some mortar, work that they're doing around the building. But I am waiting on an update, and I have suggested that we may need to take a little bit more of an aggressive approach because we're not getting a lot of feedback from the insurance company.
Anyone else? Anything? I know old business, because we got new business coming up.
So I have a question for the attorney. Since we're on old business that just took place. So the charter says in Article 6, there shall be a department of police, the head of which shall be chief of police. So, as a council, if we reject a qualified list, are we derelict of enforcing the law, the charter of the city?
I'd have to look into that, but I suppose the other possibility is that you can have someone on a temporary basis.
I believe we do, don't we, Andrea?
We don't have an acting police chief, do we?
No, we do not have an acting police chief. There is a second in command, that is Lieutenant Rob Westcott, and I believe that Rob is on the phone this evening. But we have not appointed, and we don't have a need to appoint an acting chief, because there is a chain of command, is what I refer to it.
And we're not saying we're not going to get a police chief. We're saying we want to look at it.
Well, I'm just saying, if we have a list of 3 people that qualify, same thing with the fire department or whoever, the charter calls for that. The charter is the law of the city. There shall be. And so that's my question. Are we breaking this law or not? And should we take a look at this again? Better understand our duties as councilmen to enforce this charter and this law, make sure that everything stands.
We can look into that. I understand your concern.
Thank you.
I think you very well may be exactly right on that. The question then is, what happens if you don't?
Right.
If it's really then, are you setting yourself up for somebody this is or not? And if somebody doesn't then push for it, then there isn't anything then motivating the city to comply with the phone charter.
The resolution that was on the floor was to relax the hiring freeze. It had nothing to do with the charter, except that the position. So nobody said we weren't going to follow the charter. We said what the vote was taken on was whether or not to relax the resolution in order to
We're just
So
going to
police chief.
reject the police chief.
Right. From the hiring freeze, but it had nothing to, it's not a matter of breaking the charter. Nobody said.
So right now, we don't have a police chief. So the charter doesn't say
You need to fill that within a day. There can't be a vacancy. It doesn't say that.
well, I understand there's a vacancy. And I think it also says there shall be a police chief.
Going forward.
This is the question that we're asking. We're all on the same page. And I can argue one way, you can argue another, and you can argue another. seven heads can argue seven different ways, but that's why I'm asking you here.
Another thing is that, certainly your acting, city manager had indicated that she's gonna have some research for you coming forward, at the next meeting. And with that, I would assume that whether there are some state requirements that if you have a police force, you must have a police chief.
Right.
And if that's the case, I don't know that how you can get around that.
So that would be a good indicator where there's state requirements as well.
Yeah.
I believe that's what sort of law.
Very well may be. I don't know the answer to that, but that very well may be the case. Which seems like it's putting you in a position that you very well may have to look for hiring police or hiring police.
Just to be clear, that is the memo that you will get. It will outline the state, local, and county procedures. I felt that it was my responsibility to provide that to you to defend the resolution, which I have explained to the police department, who would very much like to have that resolution on tonight's agenda, but I was not prepared to adequately defend it. So that is why it is not on your agenda this evening. When you have all that, and should you then choose to defeat the resolution, then I think that we may have issues.
Well, you know, it may even say that in state law, so I would appreciate some commentary with it. Because, you know, I'm sure there's situations in New York City where, you know, or another big municipality where it says that in state law, but, you know, they aren't, there may be a vacancy for 3 months. Not the end of the world, if you're working toward that. You know, not like you're violating it.
It's a big decision, and you want to make sure you hire the right person. That's all. Anything else?
Well, on that same token, you know, asking questions concerning for it, it would be a good matter for executive session, would it not? Against personnel, a possible promotion.
I think it's more hypothetical than anything else.
So there's an actual person.
Well, that's my point. You know, I don't think it's fair to just throw a name on a piece of paper and put it out to have to say yes or no to without any type of.
So usually in the past, the city manager has brought forth the procedure that they went through. So they looked at the list, they interviewed the people, and they felt, they would bring us into executive session and say, this is why, not this, not that, whatever, this is why.
And then we would bring it from executive session.
Right. No,
That's what we've done, it's really what we've done,
Yeah,
when we
well,
hired other.
even, you know, lately on the prior, resolutions that were brought out, threw one name on the list and two to just take over a position. And I find that just not fair to the person, nor to us. You know, until we've had at least a chance to discuss it. Because I think that's, you know, the process has been in the past. I think that's a wonderful, you know, and I think it should continue that way. It's just
We've always been a department, when we've hired department heads in the past, since I've been on council, we generally had, an executive session at the beginning of the meeting before we started. We had the executive session, we talked, and then someone brought that to the floor as when we got to, you know, when you got to the resolution, somebody would bring it forward, or you take 5 votes to move it that night, and we would go on, that was after we all had discussion and we were all on the same page, so it wasn't introduced prior.
I did, the previous council, was very often spoon fed, and, this is a different council, we want to participate, and
I'm not arguing participation, I'm just saying that we kind of did do what he's asking,
Yeah.
but we kind of did do that.
but no, you never met with any of the, candidates for the position? You were just the city manager and then charter calls for city manager.
And
Not necessarily. She makes a recommendation, you make it, right?
the body.
Right, from the legal session.
Yeah, nobody gets appointed, but
And executive session, and let's not put the cart before the horse here. But no, ultimately, there is a process, there's a civil service process that has to go through. We've got a hiring freeze in place, there's a lot of steps before we even get to session to either appoint or put somebody in the position. So let's not convolute it. I mean, where we are, and right now, we're stagnant. So, let's carry on.
it was strictly a question, if we could go in the direction that he just explained to me, and I said, I agree, and I'd like to.
And it isn't part of the charter. His question is to the attorney's gonna get back to him with the answer, and we're gonna go from there. And I'm not opposed to having any interview process in any way, shape, or form. And ultimately, it boils right down to, but are you going to convene the charter commission and change the charter? Are we gonna change governmental operations and the way things are done? And that's the opinion that we'll get from Mr. Gold. According to Dan.
And I agree with you, and I think there is a lot of parts of the government that need to be changed, and probably will.
That lies right here as well, and that lies within convening a charter commission, which the charter calls for, that people come in and review the charter, and to change the administrative regulations and or the charter.
We can change the administrative rights.
That's right, you're right.
And as far as the charter goes, we can also do that. We can amend it. We don't have to change it. There's certain specs in the charter that you can't disturb, but you can amend, because we've amended over the years, and I've read it over and over. The engineers, one big example of it. It says
And that was done properly through, I believe, Councilor LaRose at the time, if I remember correctly. But it's all years done. It was ultimately, the decision is here, at this table. But it comes upon a recommendation through the established committees that are part of governmental operations. Could be the charter commission or anything. You want to amend that or get rid of the charter commission? Bring it up.
we don't need the charter commission to change the charter.
Again, I'm not looking to put the cart before the horse here, but there's a process. And, Andrea's gonna give us an update. Mr. Goldie's gonna give us an opinion as to his position on the charter. He's already given some of it. And, here we are.
I think we can still have an opinion, Andrea. We can all meet with the candidates and come to our own conclusion on who's best and still have a recommendation. And then decide. But when you only have one being recommended, you never had contact with the others, you're kind of taking, we're elected and people want us to make decisions and it'd be nice to see them all.
I think you guys are talking about the fire department. There was only one person I wanted that was that.
But, we just want to go on to new business, everyone?
Yep.
Okay, now we got some new business. If it's all right, I would start. I'm gonna bring this up, Andrea, you and I talked about it, ladders at the dock. This is for everybody listening, they're ordered. The city's just waiting for them to come in, and when they come in, DPW will put them right up. So that's just so people out there know. The other thing.
This is for what? For the boats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyone out there listening, know that, where that stands. The other thing, I get a lot of calls on, the need for more benches, park benches. A lot of the elderly are having trouble making it to the next bench. And, do we have, benches that we could put out, or can we come up with some funding to purchase some more, or?
Are there specific locations? Are you talking about along the trail or along the Maple City Trail?
Maple City Trail, down by Little Park, I think someone was, sitting, went to sit and took a little fall. He was trying to sit on something that wasn't good to, so at both the docks for people to sit there.
At the boat launches?
Yeah,
I can say that the benches that were on the boardwalk, we have ordered new benches for the boardwalk, which is not presently open right now, but there were a number of benches there. Those were removed as part of the process. We have new benches that have been ordered, and they will be put up, and then when we do more with that project, we will, take them down, store them, and put them back up in the end. Some of the benches that have been removed, they're in pretty bad shape, but we can take a look at them and see if they can be salvaged and maybe located in other areas. Most of the benches that have been placed in the park more recently have been donated, and you'll notice that a lot of them have in memory of somebody or donation by this club or that club. So those are typically the benches that we have. But we can certainly take a look at that and see if there's anything that we have in storage that can be installed, or whether we would need to purchase additional benches.
You know, it might be a good idea too, to back up what Mr. Reed said last time about the position there, trying to get private donations. And what your comment, there may be people that want to buy that and never get somebody.
Yeah, I think in the past, I don't know who, Kathy and I can maybe do a little research into this, but I believe those types of donations have been done through maybe Pride and Beautification or the Garden Club. So we can follow up with those commissions and see what they do, if they solicit donations, or how we can go about doing that.
I had calls on, the house on Franklin Street, they burned, and the house on Green Street. You made any headway on those?
I can advise on Green Street. So I have the signed deed and transfer documents from the homeowner, which is now in state, that, I requested an assignment of whatever interest the estate has in the, insurance, so we can proceed against, basically step into the shoes of the homeowner and, make a claim for the damages. And, my understanding is out with the attorney for the estate to sign, he's requested a release from the city, preparing a release. The city will sign basically releasing the estate from any and all claims that you have against the estate and their property. So within a week or two, that should be all set and ready to go.
I'm sorry, what, is that a townhouse?
You're talking about one of the cars
That's
over
one the
here.
car drove through? Thank you.
Is it so promising for the insurance to pay for the damage?
I haven't reached out to the insurance company because we don't have an interest in the house. At that point in time, I mean, there should be, a covered claim. And now, of course, the question is what the damages. The damages are ostensibly what the car did to the building and what it would cost to repair that. Obviously, the city has no interest in repairing that, but it's my understanding that talking to the former city manager that the cost of demolition is always more than $20,000. So that's the covered claim. What the insurance adjuster does in dealing with us, I can't speak to.
That's good. Is there anything on Franklin Street?
That was a privately owned home, obviously. My understanding, there was no insurance, so ultimately, we anticipate that that's a property that we may acquire through the foreclosure process.
Is there anything we can do there's a lot of glass that we could enforce, like, the cleanup of around the building and boarding up? voted out. Do that.
I can certainly address that with the code office to see if there's anything that can be done to secure the property and make sure that it's obviously not a hazard.
And I, for one, would vote for your land bank to buy that for $1. Sounds go along with that. It's all burned out. I just get it. And I'm sorry, just to continue, I have had calls from people, apparently, their income tax are still coming COVID-19. And so they're real worried that their house is gonna go up for the tax sale, property tax sale, because they don't have their income tax. I don't know what it would take to make an extension for them paying the property tax.
I believe they cut off programs off of it. Part of the, I don't know what the federal program is called. The governor uses executive order. I don't know if there's anything encompassed in any of that that would, give any relief, any taxpayers, maybe delinquency unemployment, anything of that.
You know,
It's a genuine concern, obviously. I don't know if there's anything.
could we put the sales tax, the sale off? Could we just postpone it ourselves for, a little while before we put the properties up for sale?
I think those properties are delinquent every year.
There's a mechanism built in, I believe that you get, like, if you don't pay your taxes this year, you pretty much get a year, the following year if it comes up, that you haven't paid. And so if you were, unfortunately, I guess, if you put yourself to the point where you were behind before COVID and everything else by a year, and now you're facing that monthly really. Yeah. I mean, there's two ways to, look at it, we want people staying at home, and we want them to pay their taxes, I mean, the paper had $350 in it, and it was $988,000. That was listed, hopefully that falls off. $1 million, catastrophic.
So what the city has to do is borrow a tax right now. Just make it higher.
Until they were made whole.
Can we borrow another, can we do another chance before we pay back the one in July?
I know that Tim and I spoke about this. Tim, can you speak to council's question?
This 1.4 million.
You want to know if we're doing another tan? Is that what you said?
No, like, if we had to take out a tax anticipation note based on the fact that some people aren't gonna be able to pay for their property taxes and such. My question is we probably can't take out, even though most likely we would have anyway, because I think it's routine if it has that. But it would make sense that before I would let you borrow any more money on that anticipation note, I would make sure you pay the one you have that's due in July of 1.4 million.
I think we have to wait and see what comes in.
I could hear most of what you said, but I guess Kathy, can you repeat what he said? I can hear you better.
So I think the question is, whether or not we can borrow a TAN if we haven't paid back the other one, or do we plan on having the other one paid off in July?
Well, typically in the past, they usually occur around the same date. Typically, you get the new one in just prior to paying the previous year's one. I'm still working on the cash flow statement, and I hope to have an update at the next council meeting, or maybe even prior to the next council meeting, regarding what my recommendation would be, but I also consult with fiscal advisors. And we have had discussions recently.
Okay.
I had an item for new business, if I may.
Yes.
On the, ability for people, to dine outside, I read something in the paper, and I was trying to understand that, I didn't read the whole story, I read a little bit of it.
So when we received word that outdoor dining was going to be permitted as part of phase 2 reopening, I had a conversation with the code office and we were talking about how the city could best respond. And not all establishments have designated outdoor seating. So we wanted to encourage those restaurants that maybe have been closed or operating at reduced capacity doing takeout we wanted to afford those businesses the opportunity to create temporary outdoor eating. So we allowed for, we are temporarily through September 30th, allowing for business owners that want to allocate up to 50% of their designated parking for outdoor eating. That's under the assumption that obviously tables have to be no more than or no less than 6 feet apart. Even when we do get to indoor dining, we anticipate that it will be at a reduced capacity, and therefore we anticipate that will still provide some parking and also create some flexibility for establishments that don't typically have outdoor seating to provide it during this short period of time.
What about on, let's say, all they have are sidewalks outside their building?
There is specific, we also did in that press release, we did provide the link directly to New York State where there was guidance for that scenario that New York State is regulating, as well as the requirements from New York State that regulate the sale of alcoholic beverages, which are obviously outside of the city, but that does fall under New York State. So we included those links and information to business owners so they could follow up on that on their own.
Well, if they don't own the property outside their building, it's all concrete sidewalk, those regulations, the state, they might be able to set some tables up out there.
Well, they would have to look into what the requirements would be and how they could or couldn't do that, but the memo in the press release that we did is specifically for designated parking. It does not include the use of the sidewalk, which our code does not allow for being blocked.
Yeah, that's a good code to change, I think. I wish I could do it right now because so many people I talk to, they travel the world, they go to Spain, they go to Italy, they go to Florida, and it's such a common practice to be this backward in this community. It's ridiculous, and it needs to be changed.
I know when we go to Florida, we always want to sit outside, and I always say, top, here's inside, everybody wants to be on that sidewalk. And, if you leave adequate room for them to walk by, it brightens up too, like, if we were to change that, and like, you see some people sitting outside on the sidewalk, it just makes it feel more lively, especially downtown. You got, some of the restaurants there. It just makes you feel like, hey, look at this people there, and you want to go over and kind of join in and have a meal. And I think that would be a real positive thing for our city. If the rest of the council consider that, it would be great.
I think if we relax for the parking lot, which is wonderful, all for that. But I think we probably, for the businesses that don't have what other people have, even 50%, we don't need to lose any more business. And if right now that helps them get away, even if it's till September 30th, like your other, extension or change temporarily, because even like they relax, like your alcohol beverages, they even drop their open container on a temporary basis. happening, and I understand we've got our code, but I think it's time to relax the code just like the other and permit these businesses to bring in more revenue, which is, you know, we want them to stay. And I know there's some that are very struggling right now. It's not.
Let's put a resolution in this. Open it up. All right, I'll make a resolution from the outside dining in front of our business establishments, even if it's on city property, as long as it does not block the sidewalk. I'm sure there is, but there is with everything the city owns, so I don't think that's an issue.
I'll second that. Let's go for it.
They gotta walk into the restaurant too, and they walk in on the property. They walk in and out.
But no alcohol, just food.
I'm fine with, I mean, if we regulate open containers, allowing them to be responsible,
That's fine, too. Who's gonna be responsible for the concrete? You get a pothole, you get, whether it's flat top. I'm just trying to make sure the city's fair.
The owner pays for the sidewalk. It doesn't matter.
That's true, too. But,
So,
when we get those city owned,
I think there's only a couple of them apply to like plates, cans, the white cross from cans.
you're all set.
You get down to Hotburg,
But you tabletop, get on the house, we're not supposed to, in any way, shape, or form.
everybody's crossing a city street to get from one side of Hotburg to the other.
I understand that. I just wanna make sure that there's no liability towards the city. I'm all, I see one across the street, just right down here in the corner, the place put one out, got them in Big City, I'm not complaining about it. Especially in light of what's transpired in the last 3 months.
And then maybe over the next 3 months, staff could look into amending the proper way, and not the proper way, but in a more formal way to relax that so that that can happen, and we can learn from it over the 3 months.
We get a legal opinion on that?
I'm sure there's, I mean, the question is, but obviously there's got to be some tie between
Business
the
and
harm that
city.
we suffered and blaming to some degree on the negligence of the city. But, and then, as far as the resolution goes, you can't block the sidewalk. How much can they block or not block?
I think something a little bit more formal would be in order. In the sense of urgency, though, he's already permitting outside dining, they've been suffering from it.
For places that have established outside dining, that was his intent, was to open it up, and many businesses, which I don't oppose, took advantage of that and used that.
Right, and certain businesses like Ham don't have it. So that's, it's common practice in Florida and Massachusetts, everywhere, the business doesn't have the space, the business doesn't have the space. And I'm saying, let them use our property. Let them use our.
And I want to make sure that we're not liable.
I don't think anybody's opposed to that.
I'm
just saying, like the attorney said, how much, and.
Would that be an agreement between the business and the city? Private business owner or in the city, or would we establish a code that would allow the sidewalk to be utilized for seating or dining?
I would put in the bottom of it that as long as pedestrian traffic can go not impeded, which means you're able to go down the street, back up the street. It's not like we've got crowds of people on the street.
That's right. 3 feet, you leave 3 feet, you have to have a 3-foot door for handicap, so, a wheelchair can make it through,
What are the sidewalk here? 6 feet wide?
Well, yeah, down.
You put a little table for 2 in there, 24 inches, 2 feet.
The ones I've seen have a.
And it's not just the seating, it's the infrastructure that's there.
Oh, I know.
That I'm concerned about as well.
And a crowd.
Resolution and motion on the floor would say that it can't obstruct the sidewalk.
Yeah.
We have, motion and second.
Did that include, I think, being able to have alcoholic beverage on that? As long as it's legal with the city, it's another thing, it's not legal with the ABC or
The only thing with that, they're gonna get
This
permission.
is what I'm saying, like, you need something just a little bit more formal. Because like, they did it, but they also said, you're only gonna drink alcohol on the street if you purchase food and you're sitting there at a table, you're not just sitting there drinking a beer.
Or taking the beer on the line.
I was up there, and there's people walking the street. Well, you go inside,
If
you buy
you're doing it, doesn't mean it's law.
I know for a fact that Fredo's gonna get a special license to serve beer.
I think we need something just a little bit more formal, but
That's just for, let's just leave it without alcohol. Yeah, allow the people that just so they can. That was all gambling, I didn't, gambling too. Couple places that I had still outside with a soda and it's sunny and watch the cars go by and get up and leave someone else come in.
For the more conservative members of council, I'll read it.
We've got our distance and.
just the alcohol part, right?
Right,
For now,
you'll never get the alcohol.
unless you're sitting there having a dinner, you know? I mean,
I don't really think the alcohol really affects your menu.
No.
The food, you got the distance. Any further discussion?
Can I have it?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It is my understanding, Counselor Reese, please correct me if I'm wrong. There's a motion on the floor to permit outside dining on establishments, even if space only permits for them to have such on city property. And it was seconded by Counselor Dilaba.
I understand the resolution a little differently. I understand that Counselor Reese moved to allow for outdoor seating on sidewalks without impeding pedestrian circulation. The mayor added that pedestrians should be allowed to have 3 feet of trespass.
Minimum?
Minimum.
Amendment though, this discussion.
If that isn't part of the motion, I do want to express some reservation that we really ought not to be blocking the sidewalks specifically for handicap access. We cannot require them to have to go off of a curb and into traffic, which is a bit concerning.
With the resolution, start.
But that distance would make it.
minimum of 3 foot,
Measurable, yeah.
88.
That's fine.
You just don't want to share this resolution. That's what
I didn't realize it was such a concern, but okay, that's fine.
So.
Well, I know that they have to have a 3 foot distance width on like any kind of.
We're certain about that? 88? Yeah.
Or you can just say 88.
Yeah.
Sorry, that works.
Those are the notes that I have, second by Counselor Dilaba.
Okay.
If I phrase the question, is this temporary? Temporary, right? You have a date on
It
there.
did say 3 months.
Yep.
3 months from today.
Are we good to
I want to
go?
go a little longer call tonight.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by then we'd have something more formal, in place.
Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Reese?
Yes.
Yeah.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Mayor Skelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Approved.
New business?
Actually, I would, that wasn't brought up a point there. You can update on that one and the village, take a look.
Yep, I did check in with the code office. They did, the property owner did take out a demolition permit, which they did do that demolition. The code office was working with them to tidy it up a little bit, which they did admit it was not quite as tidy as it might, as it should or could be. I did drive by it, yesterday in preparation for today's meeting. It looked okay. The part that was required to be demolished has been demolished.
I just heard from some individuals in the neighborhood. Next one. Appreciate it.
or new business?
Motion to adjourn?
No?
No, there's more?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're discussion.
I need a break.
Assistant City Manager Andrea Smith will discuss, the reopening plan for Ogdensburg.
I just wanted to mention for the benefit of the public that, as various municipalities look at reopening to the public, we are tentatively planning to reopen City Hall to the public beginning Monday, the 15th of June. We will be putting together a press release to that effect this week. And, along with the requirements, of wearing face coverings when you're in the hallways, common areas, et cetera, as you're coming in and out of the buildings, the same that is required for you all, as well as all employees. We're excited about being able to be open to the public. We've made a few modifications that provide a greater degree of separation between employees and members of the public to protect everybody's safety. So I just wanted to publicly announce that that is the day we're tentatively planning to open, unless for some reason something changes between now and Monday that would prohibit us from opening. That is our intent. Now that is specific to City Hall, and the fire department will remain closed at this time. There's really no need for the fire department to accept members of the public, and because of the degree of sanitization that is required in that department, we will not allow for tours by the public at this time. The police department has remained open and will continue to remain open, and DPW has modified the building so that they can accept public as necessary. So that's not really going to change a whole lot either. So the big change is going to be that City Hall will be open as of June 15th. The Dubisky Center will not be open to the public. It is currently, the Boaters Lounge is open to boaters who have a fob. It is my understanding that prior to the departure of recreation staff, all boaters had fobs. They were all in working condition, and there were no issues with boaters being able to access the Boaters Lounge. I personally have not received any recent complaints or notification of issues with the Boaters Lounge, so that will remain open, but it is separate from the rest of the building. I did mention to the mayor and various members of council independently that at this point in time, while recreation is still closed, we don't really see the need to open the Dubisky Center, so that will remain closed for the time being.
I just have questions for people utilizing the parks and walking the trails and looking for staff access. That I know a lot of people use the Dubisky Center as like a stopping point, elderly when they go for their walks, or, you know, people are, that is kind of like the stopping point, people go stop in professional facilities, and people are just asking when they can expect to be able to do that again. So I just said that I would bring it up and make sure that it was understood that people were asking.
I appreciate the comment. We still will have to work through how that will be open because there is no staff at the building, and so monitoring the building and then keeping it safe is a bit of a concern because there is no one there. One of the things we have thought about is that we do have marina staff that are in and out of the facility Thursday through Sunday, so that does provide some oversight of the building, so that may be a good option, which leaves only Monday through Wednesday as times that the building really is not regularly monitored. But we are very aware that that is really the only public restroom in the park system, and right now it is unavailable. Certainly as we get to phase 4 of the reopening, particularly with regards to the playground, we will have to address how those restrooms are available.
Yeah, it was, pretty much just in the witness fishermen using the marina, like the city little park as their own private restroom, which was kind of uncomfortable in the public area, but there was no other access to restrooms. So I'm just, before the complaints start rolling in, then.
Couldn't we contract with somebody along the way, maybe a few porta potties to have them maintained? I mean, for this
this period of time so that, like you say, when somebody's out walking, they,
You don't always have.
you're pushing them into breaking other LMCs, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I don't,
Maybe we could find volunteers.
well, the thing is, there are people, I will agree that walk a lot, and it's
Right.
kind of a place to.
Especially when you have little kids, you don't get a window of time sometimes where you sometimes get like 30-second window where you gotta find, and it's not like there's anywhere else to go, and, I mean, that's all I'm saying.
There is a Polygon over by, Orchard.
That's theirs.
That's theirs, they lock it, and
They lock it.
But I know that we put one down to the, boat launch,
Tentative
right?
Street last year.
We have had them there from time to time. We have had some vandalism of that particular porta potty. I'm not suggesting that we can't consider it again. We can certainly get some cost information and a proposal and present that to council, if that's the consensus of council. I don't have that information. I can certainly look into that.
When we did Tentative Street, always had different projects, there's always been. I was just thinking, we need to have something available for the public.
Say put one on Patterson Street, one at Bisbee, and one at the, pump house. Just have them do it. Shane do it. We don't need it.
Well, I think it's urgent, I mean, we have to purchase them.
We can get cost information and present that to council.
Just rent them for 3 months.
And then they come in once a week or?
Yeah, they clean whenever it's common ground.
I just don't know.
And I know with COVID, if there's an increased cleaning
Well, that's.
regimen or whatever, I'm just saying, I just wanted to see something.
Right there, actually, COVID.
Well, once we open back up there, we're pretty good at cleaning, I'm sure, because we wouldn't put our own people out there.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about porta potties, I just didn't know if there's an increased cost due to maybe their,
Yeah, and some people aren't very nice, so it does happen, but, I mean, you can only do the right thing.
no, I understand, it's the same thing with the Fort had the same issue down there, and,
And we'll deal with repercussions as far as like having to, or whatever.
Yeah.
And just so like you said, it's the lady with the 2 little kids and the one going, so.
listen, I've been the mom in the park for my kids finding the nearest street because there was an available bathroom, so I'm just trying to prevent.
I mean, yeah, if people are out walking and, people have lost enough over the last 3 months, I think we could throw out a few quarter months. 2 months. I was like, it's been 3 months.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Always. So, as long as it's liable, COVID. When we gonna pull this up? What line we gonna pull this up?
I would just prefer to bring a proposal to council. That's just my recommendation, so that you all are aware of the schedule, that they would be clean, that they would be, and the cost, and you could make an informed decision. That's my recommendation.
Okay, I agree with you. So could we just simply do that in an email back and forth? I mean, we pretty much all just said yes. So once you do have the stuff, we're gonna say yes to it anyway. But like, yeah, it's like tomorrow, it's not driving, one of the kids is gonna be there. Yeah.
It'll probably be me.
So again, we're not putting it off for 2 weeks until the next council meeting in the middle of this is crazy. I mean, just there's a lot of stuff can't be put off. Just have Shane shoot us an email with price and we'll do it over there. You haven't got to do that,
Well, my concern is that the budget lines have all been cut,
Yeah, I know.
substantially, so there has to be some discussion about what else we're foregoing to cover the cost, if that's necessary. I can't speak to what the cost is, off the cuff this evening. I truly do not know if we're talking about $1,000 or $10,000 for 3 porta potties for 3 months.
The maintenance isn't cheap either.
So that's a concern to me, given the degree of budget cuts. Asking a department to find,
You get 3 of them, you said?
for the summer, I'll bet you're talking 10 grand.
Yeah, we gotta get right. Yeah, we should afford it.
Let's do it by email though, so we. Good luck.
Everyone okay with,
Yeah.
trying to speed it up, if the price looks good, we could agree on it by email, if you want to look at the next meeting.
Can't we always just get it and then call a special meeting, vote? Like, I mean, we were really good at those lately, so I mean, we could literally,
Special meeting?
well, I don't know if we can vote on something like that, even if we, I don't know if we can.
Why don't Kathy and I can get together and figure out what the current executive orders allow, and if they allow for an email vote, happy to do it. If they don't, we'll get you the information and you can make an informed decision on whether or not you want to call a special meeting or entertain it at the June 22nd meeting. I just, given the degree of cuts in people's budgets and departmental budgets, I really hesitate to make.
Because I know where it's coming from.
We might be able to get it covered 75% through funding.
I can also look into that as well.
Seeing that, because of COVID, they're not being able to take your kids in there, so. I mean, well, we'll make it a little progress. Move on.
Every budget cut is stupid. We have restrooms in the area. We have a building that's shut. Do budget.
So we gotta take money because there's not the building's not being cleaned out.
So, we'll get a price.
I think that will.
I have no objection to it. I'd like to see
Yep.
it. Or
We will
willy-nilly
get
take
some
a vote on it.
information and get back to you.
Thank you. Are we good on this? Then we're on to our next. Okay, city attorney Scott Goldie will discuss establishing a clear policy for communication between city attorney and city council members.
Do you mind if I say?
No.
I guess I wanted to bring this up because, under the charter, my responsibility is to provide legal counsel to the city manager and to the city council. And, I've had requests from emails and phone calls from various counselors and asking for legal opinions on certain issues. And it's,
Do you mind?
you want me to?
I'm seeing that the public can't hear you.
Sure.
No, I don't know.
No,
Just have the microphone.
Like, yeah.
Thank you.
So
No.
it's coming down to trying to figure out, is this a request for a legal opinion that's really being asked for by the council and more or less, I guess, by the majority or not? And it kind of becomes kind of ad hoc, trying to figure that out. In the beginning, it began when I was out for medical purposes and questions were raised of some of my partners. And certainly there was determination in those calls and email communications that the request was coming from the majority of them. And other requests at times, it's not quite so clear. And I had a conversation with the acting city manager about this, and one of the things that she mentioned is in the past, and I think it has been for quite a while, that really the questions would come for a legal opinion, more or less in the discussion of the whole board. And then if that's what the whole board wanted, a legal opinion on, and it was clear that that's what the board itself wanted, and that request would come through, I'm not really sure whether it would come through the city manager or through, some designated person in the council. And that seems like the best approach. And I don't want to get in a situation of trying to figure out, is this coming from the whole or is it not? And, from what's clear, obviously, I appear to be very good community. process, obviously, the board is very advised. And I don't serve the city of Ogdensburg, so if there can be some clear discussion, instruction to me as to how I'm gonna receive questions, great. And certainly your city manager has the right to ask him the question of I'm providing city manager. But also questions may come from that.
So also in the past, I know I personally asked the attorney, the prior attorney, for legal opinions on matters. When I do, I'll CC everybody on it. And we end up having some type of discussion where the city attorney would actually respond to all of us. This was the question that was asked, even if I forgot to CC everybody. And therefore, it's a valid question, and this is my opinion on this matter. But he would CC everybody, so that there was everything was transparent, basically. And so, I think there's questions that were raised that were valid questions. And, that's the way I think it should be. I think we're all intelligent people here. And we have questions concerning whatever business is in front of us. And if one of us or two of us asks you for an opinion, please respond and respond to all of us. That's the way I think. It's always been done, and it should be done. That way, it's definitely transparent, not a take away.
Well, I know, myself and two other counselors, have spoke a lot to you, Scott, and, also your partner, Jim Burrows, and they've always been on issues, and you can confirm this or not, that are an idea, a thought, something that will benefit the city. Much of it was dealing with the county and what we faced with, their proposal was so large, and you can only have 3 counselors at one time together. So, 3 of us kind of ended up working on this process of the sales tax. And I did call you a lot Dan, on this. I called the court. I never called Mike, and that's because he's in Albany, and I don't know if he's in a meeting or not. But so that was the process, and then it kind of came into question because the prior city manager, we got consent of agenda, it's never been an issue, but she brought that out. And then it just kind of grew from there. But I like the idea of majority, and I think it would not be a problem because anyone comes up with something that they think is going to be beneficial, we share it with the others, which, if he has something, you can always rely on Mike and the goal, and he calls one of us and says, I think this would be good, and we need legal advice, can this help our city? And like I say, in the prior case was dealing with the county, because we didn't know anything. So I don't see where there's an issue with it working if it's beneficial for the city. I know I'll go along with anything that's going to help the city.
My issue lies in when we sent emails asking for, or I could have said in the meeting, please, with one other counselor, just let's get this legal opinion, and everybody sits there like crickets, or nobody responds to an email. I think that, if there's valid concerns, whether it's a majority or not, we should still be able to have those questions answered. I guess it's my concern. Because we've asked that council to have Mr. Goldie come prior to this meeting, or to get advice. We've got email chains a mile long asking for it, but it's 3 people asking for it. We're still not able to get it, even though everybody was CC'd, and all it took was one person to say, yeah, just give them the legal advice they're asking for so we can move forward. And we still have those same questions we had in those emails.
Well, I always call you when I'm not, I don't email all the time, and I just call, and I think it helps, because you have a point made, and then I come back with a point, and one question leads to another answer to another question, and it just, it's better for dialogue.
Well, I said right at a council meeting, everybody still said they wouldn't do it. Like, I guess my point is, right, what I'm arguing is, it's great when you're on the majority, because you're always going to get the questions you want. We are sitting not on the majority, and we are not getting the questions that our taxpayers are asking us to ask. And that's where my concern lies, is we're being asked questions, the taxpayers want to know, but we're not able to have those answers.
Nor are we getting any information from any other question.
And like, that's all I'm saying is, I think if information goes out to one member, it should go out to all 7. And that's all, I think that should be a common practice going forward. If someone requests something, it should go out to all 7 members of the council. I don't think there should be any hiding. We need to work as a board together. We need to unify to make the city better. And the only way we can all work together is to everyone have the same information. So if I submit something and everybody says, yeah, let's get 4 people are like, yeah, let's do this, it should still go to all 7 people. So if one person requests something, even with the majority consent, it should go to all 7. The city taxpayers are paying for said attorney, so we should all have access to that, because we were all voted in. So that would be my recommendation is, if one person requests it, there's a memorandum, it goes to all 7. If there's an email, it goes to all 7. If there's a phone conversation, there is a, brief synopsis typed up, sent to all 7.
And that's the way it's always.
And that's the way.
Well, we know your frustration. We sat out here during December when a lot of big agreements were made, and we had an agenda from the voters, and, we never got any information. We never got any information from November to January, and so we know your frustration. We live with it, and
I think our voters, I think the citizens deserve that all 7 of us who are voted in, whether they're voted in the newest elected or whether the older elected council, we still all deserve the same information.
we were voted in, and the precedent was always to bring the new elected officials in during the budget and all the other stuff that was going on. We were excluded from everything. So
I was
there's
never
no
involved in
in-between
We have any
between
goal
everyone.
that though, Mike, at the end of the day, that wasn't our call. I don't know what the problem was there. Pardon me?
You should be involved in the budget.
I'm not saying you didn't. When I got elected in 2007, I sat up here and went through the 2008 budget with the city council before the major parties. I'm not suggesting that that's not the case, and that's not what we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about prior precedent and frustration.
Could you look into other municipalities do as far as that work as a group to see how information comes from their attorneys, may say other governing bodies?
Correct, yeah, but then we're back to the general question.
Transparency or no transparency? It's that simple. Either we're gonna be transparent or we're gonna be secret.
Here's some of my concerns. One is we have a cost savings initiative. Okay, we just received a bill for services by Goldie and his firm. We received one beforehand. I said it.
I hadn't seen them.
All I know is that we got one. That's all I know. I believe it was in the update. It just came out in the update. We just had it. It came out on Friday. So, with that being said, we have a cost, ultimately, how it, in past practice, which I'm a union guy, past practice, at the end of the day, you can do what you want with past practice. A lot of it doesn't carry a great deal of weight, but at the end of the day, transparency matters. So when you have a cost measure here, and I've said it on the record numerous times in this chamber before we went to online meetings, when I'm asked a question and I can't answer it because I don't have the information, I'm failing my constituents. Just be no different than any one of you, in any capacity. When I attempted to obtain information, and this is not a reflection on Convoy McKay and the law firm at all, but apparently from the email exchanges that I had, it was based off a majority of counsel. Now, when you say that, I have a great deal of issues going forward. Where did you get your majority? Was there a show of hands? Did you have 4 individuals on a phone? Were there email exchanges with 4 individuals? Then if that's the case, I'm making a point here. And the mayor just said a little while ago that he had three individuals meet and discuss city business. I have forwarded emails to Mr. Golden, and he responded, but he couldn't respond because somebody told him that he can't respond without a majority. That, you've all seen it. You just said that you've had meetings with 3. If there was a majority and we had discussions over city business, we've got problems with open meetings law now because there was a meeting held without public notice going out to you. I'm not making accusations. I'm basing my conversation off information that I have right here in emails that I've asked for an opinion. I got 2 other counselors to support my initiative. He still couldn't respond because he didn't have a majority. There's my problem.
Well, they had a majority, Mike.
Pardon?
They had a majority.
Who?
They did.
I'm talking about my concerns.
I know you are.
You're
just saying he didn't have a majority.
But no, he just said a little while ago that he had meetings with 3 of you.
3, and the 4th night.
But he got information. Why can't I get the information?
I give my vote to go talk to him. I'm the guy that wasn't talking there.
So now we have a potential issue with an open meeting.
No, it wasn't an open meeting. I get the information.
You're suggesting that you have a majority to conduct city business.
You don't like it. It's 4 to 3. That's the way it is.
Listen, I can care less about that.
That's what happened. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize to me. Like I said, I could care less.
Well, neither
It's
did I.
about transparency.
Please.
I can hear everyone, and you got a gentleman trying to get out of court. No,
I had the floor until I was interrupted.
Oh, you
And I still had questions out there.
That was the point I was trying to make, that it would be better if we went through the chairperson to be recognized, so we didn't have like a open debate.
Well, if I could finish my comment, I think ultimately, if we have information, we share it with all, and we direct either the city manager or acting city manager with consensus of council to send over so that we're all in the loop and that we all have the information. The 4 to 3, I could care less. I want to know, because I have people that ask me.
I think the mayor should do it all.
Well, then,
I
name the
have-
charter commission and change the charter.
I have spoke to other counselors all along, shared all the information as it proceeded, in the conversations. There were conversations always for the city and the hope of benefiting the city. Never trying to make, as a legal issue, get someone thrown off as an elected official. Everything has been done. Nothing has ever been done with the lawyers against any of these conflicts. It's always been for the benefit of the city, never for the benefit of us. And I think it's worked well. We've worked through, the sales tax. We have other major issues, that are being worked on. And you know what, let's get transparency. What if we ask our city comptroller for all the lawyer bills from January 1st, 2019 to present day? All the bills. And we can compare. Are we wasteful? I mean, we were facing $11 million issue with the county. Then it was $2 million. Then it was $1 million. I mean, we're talking some major money, liability for the city to lose that. So, you know what? That time spent with the lawyer was very beneficial. And I'm worried that he couldn't bring 7 of us to talk with him on the phone. We can bring 3. So that's what we did.
And so be it, but we don't, when we actually asked for it in this forum in here. We're on the record asking for the information. And you yourself, and you said, get 4 votes. No, I apologize. Might have been Councilor Dillable. Get your 4th vote. And that's the direction we got from the law firm. So where are we? That's the direction that we got when I posed questions. I couldn't get answers from you, so I went to the law firm. And I still don't have the answers.
What do you want to ask me about the sales tax? I'm asking the chair.
It's more than just sales tax.
It's about all communication. If anybody on this board has a question, we can say, to protect the city, it's about protecting the city, no matter what it is. If one of us asks it, then it should be responded to all. If it's in an email or a telephone conversation, then that should be put on a piece of paper or a memo and say, the question was asked, boom, and here's my response. That's the way it's always been done. I know nothing about any single conversation that took place. Nothing. And I don't think that's right. I mean, I'm elected to do a job here.
Why do you object so much to us working extra hours on the sales tax issue?
I think it's wonderful if that's what you're doing.
Well, that is what I
Share
do.
the information.
I have, Dan. I have told you
Your conversation with me about sales tax is wonderful. And we've had great conversations. And 99% of the time we're agreeing on most stuff. But the fact is that it doesn't matter. If you ask the attorney something, I want to respond. And that's the question that's before us. The clear policy for communication between the city attorney. It's not about sales tax, it's about any question. So, period.
So I'm looking at the lawyer bill from 5/5, and it says emails with attorneys Burroughs and Goldie about confidential matters, exchange emails, city council regarding the tax assessment, exchange email messages with Jay Burroughs, the city council who represented the majority, raising issues relating to proposed resolutions and budget reductions, legal research and review of city's contracts with unions regarding issues for budget reductions, phone conference with 3 city councilors regarding research for proposed resolutions for budget reductions. That cost the city taxpayers $494. I just want to know, I want to have the same information that $494 was spent for. That's all I'm saying. I would love it.
That's the gentleman right there. Can we have a consent of council right now to allow
I just don't want to have to go backwards. Like, I think that when that came out, we should all just have it.
So if you ask a question to the city, it could be on a construction project going on, this and that, does this violate the code, or who knows what? He should simply repeat the question in a memo and get back to us all, or an email, and say, this is my opinion on it.
I disagree, I didn't like the way Sarah handled that either.
This is way before Sarah. I want to treat 3 city managers, 4 city managers.
Yeah,
Every one of them.
no, it's something that we
If you ask the attorney a question, that's a pertinent question. I would hope that you're not wasting his time, and therefore, his response should be here. There's been projects that have taken place in this town that, because of my position, I had a little bit of insight, because I was on council before everybody else, and I asked him a question about a contract between that project and the city. And everybody got included on it. And we hashed it out as to how we should proceed. And it worked out beneficial for the city. It's every situation that is asked of the city attorney should be shared. Because as he stated, he works for council as a whole. No hiding. It's either one word. This is your vote right now. You want transparency or you don't want transparency. That's the way it is.
Everything that's come out of our discussion with the attorney has been brought here transparently, and we all voted on it.
There's memorandums out there that we haven't seen.
I would still love to see
That are in the billing.
from 5/11.
Memorandums, well, that we're not privy to. I don't have copies of these memorandums. They weren't included in any update.
Communication. That's all it is. Communicate to all of us, please.
Well, I think if you want transparency, you would call and say, well, I got 2 counselors and myself. What here's what we want to do. I mean, I'm the same
We've done it here,
situation.
we've asked, we've been told, get a fourth vote.
We're in the same situation. If John doesn't agree with what I want to go to stop with, I don't for, and you guys, I don't have
to agree to this.
we gotta have four.
But if you go to Scott, then Scott should simply respond to it. It's that simple. It's that simple.
I say,
I don't think so. I think that's, you know,
Transparent.
some of these things are political demands. I mean, they're obviously differences of opinion.
Everybody's got a difference in opinion.
but we're not gonna spend that kind of money for our difference. Like I say, the only thing that's.
You're gonna have a majority, and you're gonna have it anyway. What's the difference if you share with us in here or not, or via email? If you're gonna insist on it, just say it, for the love of Pete. You're gonna have to have a majority, but share it with us, you still got your 4-3, and then we're all on the know.
I'm fine with the way, the present situation, the way it's worked out.
I am.
Sure we are. It's all.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly,
It is a
I'm
big shock.
perfectly fine if, you know, you wanna bring something up that you're concerned about, and, you
The
know.
taxpayers deserve to know what the hell's going on, and we deserve, as elected officials, to know what's going on.
I include everybody in my email,
Transparent.
everybody, and I use my city email.
If I can add to this, you know, again, with the transparency, I think that's an important issue. It's a little different than the communicating what the whole wants. But Councilor Powers made a freedom of information request for communication between various members of the board and the attorney. And at first looking at it, I suppose the technical answer would be that if that were just a regular member of the public, that those are attorney-client communications that may not necessarily be made available. But he's accountable, he's responsible. So he's making a roundabout request to get the information from me that he should otherwise have access.
Should have to begin with, right?
And so, I mean, the whole point is, again, you know, if you're doing it in email, and whether it be one person asks a question and then I answer and share with everybody, okay, that's a different question than if the question that was posed was shared with everybody, and then you get 4 or 3 to say, yes, we want to go do this, or no, we don't. But I need clear direction. And this has to be open to everybody. You know, there really should be, there aren't secrets here.
Thank you.
You know, with regards to, now, the one distinction was when there were questions that are related to now former city manager. And, you know, those are things that maybe you can't speak of quite so publicly. But other than that, you know, you got some big issues you gotta deal with. And, all of it should be open.
And
To at least us.
Yeah, and, you know, there may be, certainly if there are issues that pertain, that are otherwise protected, that would be exempt from disclosure, then all of you are under an obligation not to leak that stuff. If you do, that's a crime. Right. Okay? So if there are things that should remain protected and confidential, you know, you're all under an obligation to keep it secret and confidential. Even if you think, even if they're on the opposite side of the issue. But you're all entitled to this information because you're all trying to make a decision.
And I have talked to, all the councils except for Mike, and I have shared that with the others. Well, you know, I don't know when I'm interrupting, you know.
Send me a text, give me a call.
Anyways, I have shared all that. The difference is the county is doing their work and executive session. They're behind closed doors. And so, in our conversation, with Jim before you, were about those issues and trying to, come up with different, ways of, you know, protecting our city and, going forward. And so, and there can only be 3 people there. It's nothing that should be done here, in front of the cameras and allow them to see our strategy. And so you got 3 people that can talk to the lawyer. And every time, I call Dan. And probably most of the time, I call Dan first.
I never knew you were talking to a lawyer about this. I thought we were just shooting the breeze about sales tax.
No, well, I got to a point, and then, and things changed, during the whole thing. But you never interjected, you never said, I want to be part of this, because you could have been, you and John, you and Steve.
It doesn't matter, it's regardless of the point. The point is, he's looking for a clear policy on communication. Transparency or not. And as he said, he agrees with you. If somebody asks a question, it should be shared with all of us at least. And then from there, depending upon the issue, whether or not that goes covered.
If you, all that, you are thinking that something's done, wrong.
No, you don't,
And it's not.
you don't think for us. You don't think
for
me, you don't.
Well,
There's nothing out there on sales tax that shouldn't have been shared with everybody. We should, you know,
I thought you really, I seriously thought you always talked.
I talked to Mike.
I thought.
Dan and I have been friends long before
Yeah.
we ever came up here.
I'm sorry. I thought you were passing down, because you guys, you know, each other, I thought. And I also thought it went on to Nicole, and then I got realizing that it hadn't, and I called Nicole directly. You know, but anyways, my direction would be that it is majority, and anyone can call or email directly another counselor, and if it's for the benefit of the city and not political, I think it's great. I would love to see, more hours put in by everyone on these really important issues.
This is politics, whether you like it or not. You know, you, at the end of the day, party lines is different. We're all different party lines here, and we all, whether you're in the minority or the majority, we all have different party lines here. So politics plays a role, whether you like it or not. And at the end of the day, people have differences. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not. But at the end of the day, when we're coming together to try and operate so that I can answer constituencies, whether or not anything I ever bring forward comes to light, that's totally up to this body. But going forward, having information to share with constituents that ask me, that send me emails, that's important information that I can't respond to them because I don't have them. Nicole doesn't have it. Dan doesn't have it. And apparently there was no fourth vote anywhere, so maybe there's another member of council here that's not in the crate either. I don't know.
I'm willing to be your fourth vote right now and ask Mr. Goldie anything you want.
So basically, then what you're saying is when somebody asks the attorney a question, he should respond to all.
I think.
Because that's what.
Did you want to ask?
That's the way he thinks it should be.
Do you want to ask him private?
I think.
Private.
Right now?
This is the people's business.
Let's do it right now.
Private.
Early on, I had this conversation with James Burrow, and he gave guidance on policy or whatever, and that was majority. And if you want a policy, we'll give you a policy, and it'll be in writing, and it'll give direction, and then you'll know which way to go. And once there's a consensus, I've got a draft I was working on, but because it was getting a little out of hand. But I think
Sorry, I hear it.
as far as I'm saying, you'll have direction. I'll come back with a proposal that if there's a consensus, the council wants it, then that's the policy we'll go by. We could beat this horse all night long, and it's insane.
But there are two parts to this. One is that who or how is the question raised? You can just be any individual, or does it have to be demonstrated before the majority? And the other question is the question at the time it's being asked, in essence, published to the rest of the council? Or, and as part of that, whatever the end product is that also published to the whole council?
Yeah, we'll have to work on it.
It should be, because
That's a work on it. At least the first part of your question would be.
Is that how you guys operate down the bridge and board?
I don't think we need to do that.
Why?
Do we, we're not, we gotta.
I'll tell you my constitutional bylaws, I ain't got a problem with that.
Well, that's not the point. And the thing is, there's a point of order, and it has, we're gonna start
Yeah,
following.
well, forgive me then,
You know,
I digress.
well, you sit in legislation stuff, so.
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you what, I've never seen any kangaroo court like this before, I'll tell you that right now. And I deal with a lot of it.
Mayor, so in your professional opinion, do you feel as this information should come to the entire governing body, in your professional opinion, representing the citizens, the governing board? Do you feel like information coming from you should come to the entire elected body, in your professional opinion? Okay. And my second question is do you feel as if a majority is necessary, or do you feel like any individual should be able to pose a question and you should be able to give that information to the entire council, in your professional opinion?
Totally.
But you do feel that any information coming from you should be shared with the entire board?
There may not.
Just 99% of probably what goes through is not confidential or personnel related or something, but it should go through. The entire council should have access to it.
Anything legislative,
Yeah.
right? Anything legislative should be shared with the council as a whole. Any action that's done by this body, or action to go forward with this body, as the governing body, should be shared with the entire board. Thank you.
And it is, isn't it? So you have to take a vote.
But we don't have the same, we don't always have the information for the voting now.
We were, do you want to share the information or you don't? It's that simple. We should have looked at it. We gotta come together and start working.
I don't believe that sharing information is a problem, because I really do believe I have. The problem is sharing the lawyer for the right thing for the city. That's the issue, and that's the majority.
So we're not.
He works for the board. He just said he works for the board.
So we're not, our concerns just don't matter.
No.
Anything going forward, or information that we have to make an informed decision that isn't relevant to us, because we're the minority.
Get a consensus.
Thank you.
Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's still action on the agenda. I think, isn't it?
Yes,
Citizenship.
yeah, yep. Okay, are we ready for that? Are we
So
all
we're
good? Okay, this brings us to citizen participation. At this time, if you would like to address council, please, use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time. You will have 2 minutes.
So did we ever answer the attorney's question?
I think we're off of that.
I don't think I have a clear answer, other than Councilor Fisher has said he was gonna put together something.
Okay, right now, show of hands, how many people would like the city attorney to share information from questions that are asked?
I think we,
Just the three of us. Thank you. Okay. Other than the city attorney himself saying that's the right way to do it. Well, thank you, Mike, Goldie, for addressing it.
Scott, you've not been correct in everything. when you told us that we had to close the meeting down because we went over 1,000 people, and that was incorrect from the state. So, Scott's a great lawyer, but, you know, that doesn't mean he's gonna be correct on everything. And four of us, disagreed with him. But, and the state pointed out that that meeting was legitimate to go ahead with. Am I correct, Scott?
I don't remember having, making,
The state came out and said that the effort, if you make that great of an effort, and then it was legitimate to go ahead with that meeting. Remember the council meeting that was, canceled, and I asked.
May 11th.
Anyway,
I thought we already moved for citizen
We have,
participation and we were interrupted.
thank you,
The chair took it in another direction.
thank you, Scott.
Have a good night, Mr. Goldie, be careful.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, so, did we have citizens?
We do. The first individual that has indicated they wish to participate is registered as Jason Bouchard, and I'll unmute that person now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, council. My name is Jason Bouchard. I am the newly elected president of Local 1799. That's our firefighters union here locally. I'm not going to keep you long. We're obviously probably all ready to part ways at this point in time, but as we have made you guys aware, we have been without a chief since January 21st of this year. The lapse in central leadership has contractually led our assistant chiefs to take on the duties and responsibilities of the chief of the department. As is the case with any paramilitary organization or any organization worth its grain in salt, unified command is absolutely paramount. These added responsibilities do not come without a contractual cost. The current monthly cost is $4,298.40 or $955.20 if we would have unified command by you guys appointing a temporary chief. Given tonight's discussion, I'm not naive enough to think that's going to happen. But we are, as a union, are dedicated servants of our great city. We aspire to provide the citizens with the safest, most effective fire protection possible. Our current dictated leadership structure, or lack thereof, will eventually, if it hasn't already, negatively impact not only the department, but the community, taxpayers, and citizens as a whole. The overall operation and functionality of the department will only suffer from the current setup. Lessening the burden of the taxpayer has been a very vocal goal of the current council. How then can one justify spending 4 times as much for what we have admittedly said is a lesser service, a less safe service for the citizens and taxpayers you all represent? A more functional fire department that costs our taxpayers less. It seems like a no-brainer, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. Enjoy your evening, and as Mr. Scamperly has said numerous times, let's continue to work together to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Bouchard.
What did he know? The new president of the firefighters. Union president? Yep. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
The next individual that has a hand raised is registered as Henry and Kathleen Bouchard, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, and it appears your line is open. Hello? The line does show that it's open.
Probably hit the hand feature by mistake.
I just received a notification that says that the person is not attentive. What that indicates to me is that they have left their device, perhaps maybe left it on and left the room. I'm not sure the time limit. I do have several people showing as not attentive, so I'm not sure how you want me to proceed, sir.
Do you think anyone is, you can find anyone?
Actually, I just received a notification that popped up and said that that individual is now offline.
So it doesn't appear that anyone.
Anybody else want to speak? If not, okay.
There are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I don't believe we have any executive session. At this time, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.